Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Welcome back, everybody. I'm going to pull back. Hang on. There we go. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. You're very pasty white because of my lighting. John Suntress here. Don't worry.
I have a new light. This is my new light. I just plugged in. That's why I was late. No, it's not a ring. No, it's something. Whatever. My kids and I were going school shopping, and I picked up this light. So now I'm a pro.
You look amazing. I know. You're putting me to shame, Tom King.
That's what I'm at. No, this is my new gig. I'm going to do YouTube modeling.
There you go.
Forget this whole comic thing.
What's up, Zach?
Zach.
Good to
Hi,
see
everybody.
You, man.
Tell your friends. Come by. Ask some questions. We're going to be here for a while.
And Hominis Nocturna, indeed. You know, honestly, Tom, if it's okay. Hold on. Sean says he just saw Mitch at a Saturday signing. One Bad Day was really good. Absolutely. Get your One Bad Day questions ready. Absolutely. We'll get into it. We'll also get into Human Target, Love Everlasting, the great Slam Bradley Gotham story.
Gotham City Year One.
Gotham City Year One, indeed. So really excited to talk about all that. Spoiler free. Is there anything else?
Danger Street. There's Danger Street.
Oh, yes. Of course.
Now, did a Superman one shot, and there must be something else.
Are you in the
Killing Time just wrapped? I've done a lot.
Killing Time, indeed. Are you in the Doomsday Anniversary collection? Or
no, I'm not in the Doomsday Anniversary. Nobody asked me to be in the Doomsday. I don't know. I think probably, Dan Jurgens, canonically hates me, so I got a beef going on with Dan. So because he's the meanest guy in comics. I think people should know that about Jurgens. Yeah, I know he has this whole Midwest, Minneapolis. I sold 4 million, all that stuff he puts out there. But I know in his heart there's cruelty. He just never shows it to anyone. And I'm the only one who calls him out on the thing he never shows.
We shared a limo from the airport to Terrificon last month, and man, I love that guy. He's and truly, I'm he's with his wife, and I'm like, hey man, I don't want to. He's like, oh, what are you talking about? Relax. And I'm like, all right, fine. And Alex Savick was with us, and the four of us just had a blast because not a short drive. It's like an hour from. Or like close to it from, and I'm not complaining. I love Terrificon, as you know,
I wouldn't know since I wasn't invited. That's okay. That's all right. I know you guys had every single awesome comic creator there except me. That's very fair. Yeah, no, I was with. I'm going to speak out of school because this is John's podcast, and we have to. I was with Jurgens in San Diego, and I was pulling his chain. Just like I was just to get. Obviously, Jurgens is one of the nicest people ever, and one of the great contributors to the history of comic books, both as an artist and a writer, and the creator of my favorite comic book character to write, which is Booster Gold. But I was just pulling his chain, and I was asking him, "Did you ever get fights with people?" And you kind of just say, "Look, I sold 4 million," and you just end the fight. And he's like, "Oh no, Tom, let me stop you there. I sold 4.5 million." Just dropping it on the table, and the table can't take the weight. That's how Jurgens rolls. That's how he rolls.
It sucked. I mean, and really, I and even Mitch Halleck from Terrificon's like, I shouldn't have put him on that panel. We did a Spider-Man panel, and we had Jerry.
He did great Spider-Man work, Jurgens. You should always put him on. He's the Clone War specialist.
Well, that's the thing, man. And honestly, I think because of the fact that they wanted to keep the story going, he bailed relatively early in the Clone Saga. And I just sensed a kind of, because we had Terry Cavanaugh, Howard Mackey, Dan, and Jerry Conway. And of course, Jerry Conway doing the original Jackal Gwen clone story. And prior to being named Ben Reilly,
that is a hell of a lineup for Spider-Man. Wow.
It was awesome. It was fantastic. But I'd go down the line and people would say, oh, wow, all right. Big Louie just got it. Oh, there you go. All right, I got a flickering bulb. Fantastic.
Oh, my goodness.
I actually
going
don't
down
mind
in Chicago.
If it goes down again, I am so for just being in that blue light. I thought I looked pretty great there.
You did, yeah. You look good. It was something in the Outer Limits episode. I loved it.
I'm not
don't adjust the dial.
I was gonna say, maybe I'll play something in the middle and adjust it back when we're going into pure questions. But before we get started on questions, and everyone's asking amazing questions already, I gotta.
We're gonna talk about your hair and how awesome your hair is and how much I hate you. My God, what a beautiful head of hair you have, my friend. This is utter jealousy coming through on this YouTube page.
And I'm getting, if you're a Sopranos fan, the Paulie Walnuts temples, but I think I'm getting Reed Richard temples. So, and Nick Fury,
yes, very
classic Nick Fury temples.
Yeah, I think they're still casting that, right? Krasinski's not married to it, I think.
I've never thought about cosplay, and I was talking to my buddy Mike, who does the Yeah podcast with me, Skokie Spidey, as we call him. Very good mimic. And I'm like, you ever see Bouncing Boy from the Legion of Superheroes? Just look up his Who's Who picture. I could so do.
No, don't throw yourself under a bus.
Tom,
I was a fat
true.
kid. I'm a not small adult.
I'm not.
Don't throw yourself like that. Bouncing Boy. No. I refuse to accept this.
Well, you're very sweet, but truly,
you're a handsome man.
All right, during the Q&A, I might be finding a Bouncing Boy picture, and I'm telling you, it's me. And that's fine. Hey, man, what are you talking about? Hey, Bouncing Boy did great. He wound up with Duo Damsel. I don't know if they got married.
That hair you have, you could go Wolverine. That's how much hair you have. You have enough that you could shape it into something.
I'm telling you, man, he's got the same kind of hair I do. Chuck Tane. I'm a big Chuck Tane fan. God bless him.
I was listening. You were the only person who understands. I was listening to Gilbert Gottfried's podcast, which I want to talk to you about because you turned it on to me, and I've been obsessed all summer with it. And I was listening to Jeffrey Tambor, who has his problems, but he was talking about which he talked about. But he said something which struck me as so true. He said, "I don't watch my dailies. I don't watch myself because every time I watch myself, I'm shocked that I'm bald." And I was like, "Yes, finally someone under." He's like, "I've been bald since I was 18. I've been bald for 10 years." And every time I see a picture of myself without hair, I was like, "No, that's not me. I'm the guy with the hair." So yeah, I get it. Yeah, so there are people out there who feel that way. So,
but all that said. I did want to acknowledge the article in Variety about that. Unfortunately, another project I think we were all waiting for from HBO Max has gotten the axe. As far as HBO Max goes, go ahead, Tom.
I just heard you talking to Brubaker about this. That's where that's immediately where my thought was your Brubaker interview.
Thank you for mentioning that, Tom, because I intend still. They kind of soften the blow, and I'll read the article out loud to everybody and show it to you in a second. But yes, tomorrow, in addition to this very conversation, I am going to re-release the Brubaker portion of our last conversation where we talked about Gotham Knights. But again, I'm happy to say that despite the headline, if you read the whole article, things might be better than we thought. So just give me a second, and I will bring up.
I think you should keep in mind that the original Batman animated series that we all love did not air on the WB. That was a Saturday morning cartoon. That was on whatever your local. For me, it was I think Channel 11 in LA growing up.
Yeah, it was Fox. It was Fox. So weekdays, absolutely, man.
And so yes, it looks like they deplatformed it, but it looks like there's room for it to go somewhere else. Seems to be the rumor going around that I'm.
Indeed,
because I want to watch that show. I want to have Greg Rucka's writing an issue and Brubaker's running it and Tim's I want to watch that show.
I'm so with you, man. Salome Halu, I hope I'm saying your name right. From Variety today, Batman Cape Crusader animated series from Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves. Let's also add James Tucker, of course, Ed Brubaker, as Tom just said. One of the writers of one of the episodes is Greg Rucka. But as it says here, acts at HBO Max will be shopped elsewhere. So HBO Max has canceled 6 upcoming animated series, including Batman Cape Crusader. The project was ordered to series in May 2021 when Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves attached to executive produce. The other series on the chopping block, Merry Little Batman, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, Bye Bye Bunny, a Looney Tunes musical, Did I Do That? To the Holidays, a Steve Urkel story, and The Amazing World of Gumball, the movie. Production on all 6 series continues, however, with plans to shop these to platforms besides HBO Max. Warner Brothers Animation is the studio for each, with the exception of The Amazing World of Gumball, which is being produced by Hanna-Barbera Studios in Europe. So there's the story. Oh, wait, a little more. It was meant to build on the Batman animated series, which was co-created by Tim and aired on Fox Kids for 85 episodes from 92 to 95. This is the second project from JJ that Warner Brothers Discovery has recently decided not to move forward to. They let go of his science fiction drama, Demomond. Okay. The decision not to release these series on HBO
mostly because no one could pronounce it.
Exactly. What? The decision not to release these series on HBO Max is part of a larger trend as parent company Warner Brothers Discovery largely divests from kids and family content. Last week, kids programs including Little Ellen and several seasons of Sesame Street were removed from HBO Max. And earlier this month, HBO and HBO Max laid off staffers from the kids and family departments. CEO David Zaslav noted the shift in priorities during Warner Brothers' recent earnings call. Additionally, after canceling Gordita Chronicles after one season last month, the spokesman for HBO Max said live-action kids and family programming will not be part of our programming focus in the immediate future. All right. So that's there you go, everybody. That's the article. And now we'll go back to our regular programming,
where you will watch or listen to Tom squirm as this is his boss who pays his bills and puts food on his table, who is making decisions. And I will say I support that person because I like food on my table, and I currently love my place in DC, and I love the people I'm working for, and I'm very loyal to Marie Severin and Jim Lee, who are running an incredible company.
Hey. Yeah,
so that's my line where I say I can't really say anything.
And I would point out that, and certainly should any DC execs watch, I don't know. I'm sure we're all for a Batman cartoon. It might, I don't know, make people want to buy more comics. So I'm sure everybody at DC is very much disappointed. The good news is, and that's why I wanted to read the whole article, they're shopping it to other places. And, up until about 20, a little more than that, not quite 25 years ago, as you well know, Tom, being much more in the business. When I say the business, I mean, of course, the industry. All the networks want to own the shows they put on their networks. So Drew Carey was an ABC show, but it was produced by Warner Brothers. Friends, also produced by Warner Brothers, but aired on NBC. So that was the norm until around the late 90s. And then all of a sudden, they very slowly kind of moved to, we want our own shows. And now with, obviously, we don't know what's happening with the parent company of Warner's Discovery. They're making all these moves. We were obviously a little disappointed when the Batwoman, or Batgirl movie, I should say, was canceled, shelved. I don't know what's going to happen to Michael Keaton. I mean, God, we were all looking forward to him coming back as an older Bruce Wayne. And I don't know if that's part of the plan now moving forward or not. I really don't know.
It's hard in my mind because I have some inside knowledge on this stuff. Some of it through the comic world, and some of it through my various failures in Hollywood. I'm the least successful Hollywood player, but I've run into some brick walls, so I know where the brick walls are. Maybe. So it's hard for me to separate what I know from what I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not asking you for state secrets. I understand, man.
Yeah, there's nothing harder to comment on this than this.
But it's I mean, it's unfortunately it's of the moment, and I felt, especially given that we were going to probably talk some Batman, that I wanted to acknowledge it at least. And but again, the good news is not dead and unlikely to wind up. Tell me any cable TV station or streamer isn't going to want this show. I'm sorry. I could see it, at a bunch of different places. So here's hope.
I think this is not a state secret because this is in every single article they write about this. Part of the AT&T merger or that made sort of Discovery was that they would produce this $3 billion, which is a lot of money to produce. And so they're cutting because they have to sort of make that money. That's in every article. I'm not speaking out of turn. And one way to make money is to sell TV shows. So if you have a show like Batman that you can sell to another place, you could make money on that instead of selling it to yourself, where you don't make any money because you've made some equation in your head that said this will not increase our subscriber base as much as selling. I mean that would be my guess based on reading, not based on any information.
No, but and also like you say, just based on how as industry watchers we're seeing how this stuff is happening, and it isn't just a Warner Brothers Discovery. I mean, again, unfortunately, these decisions, focus on things that we love, like the Batgirl movie and potentially the other one. Here you go, Tom.
Thank you. It's my new lighting that I've just installed. It's from a fairy. Oh, thank you. Yes. So I wear this hat so I don't have to Jeffrey Tambor myself. I can look.
I totally understand. So anyway, there it is. I wanted to throw it out there to get things started. That's interesting.
It's depressing, but I'm glad there's a light in all this. Yeah, I have a series, a TV series that's at Warner Brothers. So I'm dealing with this every day on the sort of the actual end of that. So
well, and again, as the CEO said, it's more about the family shows and the kids shows than it is the big dramas and stuff. So here's hoping, buddy.
I can speak as a parent here. I have every streaming service. I even have Boomerang. I know there's some I don't have BBC.
Wow.
I don't have, but I have too many. I have too many streaming services.
I have 10. Don't worry. Actually, no, I cut back. I have 8.
I think my kids counted 11, so it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. But I tend to get. We watch a few of them. Like ones you wouldn't think. Like Peacock is very popular in my house.
Sure.
You got Columbo. You got The Office. You get so that's
Raymond is there.
Raymond. There's I can say with kids, if you're trying to build a kids brand, it's hard to say here's this blue HBO Max thing that also has all this. I mean, I know you can parental control it, but my kids are not drawn to that as a place to land as much as they are drawn to others. Other places. Okay. Yeah. So I can see the logic behind being like, we're not going to be a place that you give your kids an iPad and be like, press the HBO Max button. Although my youngest son loves Bugs Bunny, so he did a ton because they have every single Bugs Bunny on there from 1929 onward.
Oh yeah.
So
it's amazing.
It's quite an amazing haul.
And the Flintstones as well. Every season of the Flintstones.
Yeah, they have all the Flintstones. Although they're not that into the Flintstones.
I understand
because of the roaring sexism.
Wow. All right. Questions are stacking up. We could start with the questions, or we could start with the new stuff. What would you like to do, Tom?
Either way, dude. I just want to talk to you. I'm excited to be on this podcast. This is my home. I love talking to you,
Tom. This is your home as much as it, and even more than Brian at this point, because as much as Brian and I talk, we talk more. No. And I'd be very happy if the King's Speech were going on every week.
Oh, God, don't make me cry at the beginning of the podcast, John. Save that when we're hour 3 and I'm drunk on Coke Zero.
Attaboy. Oh, I have a bottle in my fridge waiting for me. Jesus.
I'm excited to be here. I love talking with you, John. You're a huge influence on me. I've listened to every single Bendis tapes for 18 years. I just listened to the whole 2-hour last one. I just loved it. I just listened to your utterly fascinating Jim Shooter interview. If you want to listen to an hour of amazing comic book history, I met Jim Shooter once, so I've heard a few of those stories, but you got some stuff I had not heard, even though I had heard the exact stories before. So that was amazing. And also, I mean, just if I had to make a TV show of the history of comics, I would make it of Jim Shooter's life. I think he's like the Dom Draper of comics. He's just a very complicated man who's had a huge effect on our industry.
That is a very apt description. I completely agree with that. He has literally seen it all from mid-Silver Age to today. And that's why I love talking to people like that have that kind of perspective. And I will, forgive me, everybody, because I think I have a good usual dose of humility. But this year's been amazing. I mean, I got the Illinois State Honor. Podcast Magazine put me in as one of the 40
fancy pants now.
40 podcasts over 40 and stuff. But that Terrificon, I am not kidding. Mitch is like, hey, I hope I'm not over texting you. I'm giving you 5 panels from noon until 6 p.m. And I'm like, okay, I guess. But man, I truly felt that of those 5 panels that I did in those 6 hours, I felt like Sandy Koufax, or name your favorite current pitcher. Bruce, I don't know. Here, I'll go 30 years into the future and say Greg Maddux. But yeah, I'm not paying attention to the day-to-day baseball.
I love it. Perfect.
But it's true, man. I really like, and again, I just got out of everybody's way, let them tell their stories. Ramita, Shooter, the Spider-Man panel with Jerry Conway, Terry Kavanaugh, Howard Mackey, and Jurgens, as I said earlier. It was just Garth Ennis and Joe Ryban from Dynamite. I was very lucky. And it's like, okay, the shoehorn is firmly up my ass. I am worried about whatever bad karma is going to come around to balance the universe out, because I've had too much good luck with these late programs of late.
One question I want someone to ask Jim Shooter that I've never heard someone ask him: does it affect anything that you're a giant? Like I know he was a child in 16 and meeting Mort Weisinger, but he still must have, because Jim Shooter's 7 feet tall. He still must have been 2 heads taller than small little Mort Weisinger.
Let's hope so. Let's certainly hope so. But yeah, those are great. I appreciate it, buddy. Thank you. Gail actually has a normal question. Gail, I am always so thrilled that you're like watching.
Gail Simone is here. I know her. I know her from work. Gail Simone is a goddamn national treasure. That's what she is. She is a gift to the American dream. She goes beyond our industry.
Gail knows that.
As a critic and as a social media influencer and as someone who's influenced this industry, she's going to be one of those days like some president's going to be putting a medal around her neck. Like that's who Gail Simone is. Hopefully she invites me so I can be in the audience.
I suspect she treats me like her dentist, because it is like pulling teeth trying to get her to come back to Word Balloon. So, and
she's big time.
What a sweetie. All right, before I like you too, Nerd Survey. Absolutely. All right, here's Gail's question. Tom, I love your longer stories, but I also really extra love your short stories. Any more short stories on the way soon? I think you have a gift for them. Totally agree. You mentioned the Superman thing. Where can we read the Superman story?
I did a Superman one-shot for the new Crisis, the new Crisis series. It's out. Dark Crisis. I almost escaped my mind because they changed the title of it to Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. And if you want it, my assignment, Josh Williamson, one of my best friends in the world, said your assignment is to write Superman is stuck. He's in a trap, and the trap keeps him there by giving him his most ideal dream. So just write that story. And of course, any comic book fan is
go on.
Is like, wait a second, is that not the premise to the greatest Superman story ever written?
Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons for the man who has everything.
For the man who has everything. And Josh just paused. He's like, yeah, just do that. So it's a different like wish fulfillment of Superman's. It's a wish fulfillment of Superman's, but this is a different wish fulfillment. I mean, we're dealing with a Superman 35 years later, and the idea here is that I thought when Bendis came on Superman, he did some amazing things, but the thing that really struck me and tore out my heart was when he aged John from 13 to 17, 18, and to me as a father, I have a 13-year-old boy now. If someone took those years away from me, if someone said, okay, my boy Charlie's going out the door when he comes back, he's 18 years old, I would rather someone's like, you have a choice. That can happen, or I can take your left arm. I'd be like, fuck it. I don't need a left arm. I got rid of hair. I give her an arm. I mean, that would tear me in pieces. So as soon as Josh said that, I was like, of course, his greatest wish would be to get those 4 years back. Like that would be the most important thing in his life, to get those 4 years of his teenage. So that's what the one shot is. It's what if he had those 4 years back? It's John's teenage years, in 20 pages with Chris Burnham doing just absolutely.
Hey, awesome.
Absolutely brilliant. Chicago guy. He's from your network.
Yes,
doing the best, brilliant art, and utterly capturing it. I was teasing. Here, this will make you cry. I was teasing him because he drew Superman. This looks like you. Like you're drawing the ideal father, and he's a father, and you drew it a little bit just like yourself. And then he comes back and he goes and he sends me a picture. He's like, no, that's my dad, and it was a picture of his dad. He had drawn his dad as Superman, just because as a tribute to his own father. Isn't that? Oh, I'm getting choked up just talking about it.
No, that's beautiful. That's fantastic. No, I sadly, we all miss our fathers if they're no longer with us, and that's why truly, that was the one great move. I was just talking to Didio, and we were talking about he didn't like, he doesn't like the Lois and Clark marriage and stuff, but he, that said, he loves Super Sons and he loves John, and it's like, that really is kind of the exception of Superman and Lois kind of earned the ability finally in the way that, like, and again, showing my age, but I'll say it anyway, classic comic strips, like when, here we go, everybody, Little Abner and Daisy May and the Phantom and I'm forgetting the Phantom's wife's name, but all of these like great love stories that people had for decades, and it's like, and truly, as Didio pointed out, and well, is for sitcoms and dramas, as soon as they're together, okay, there goes the air out of the balloon. Moonlighting, not interesting anymore. You name it. God, I Dream of Jeannie last season when they're married. It's like, not interesting anymore. See ya. So
watching The Office with my family. Pam and Jim get together in season 3, and they have 7 more seasons, and it's fantastic. So there, I'm giving you.
Thank you, Psycho Cleveland. The Phantom's wife's name is Mrs. Phantom. Yes, indeed. I've got a telegram for Mrs. Phantom, the ghost who walks. His wife, please.
Mrs. Phantom.
Hello, Mrs. Phantom.
It's just a coincidence that her last name was Phantom. Exactly. It was actually.
Thank God Kid Walker found her. Exactly.
In the 30s, it's a family tree that goes right to itself.
Here we go. Liam, would you ever consider re-releasing your books as original graphic novels?
I didn't finish answering Gail's short story wise. Yes. Like I love writing
more short stories, please.
I love writing short stories. I love writing 8-page short stories. Is how I got in. I love doing like anthologies and stuff. I have not been doing them in a little while, mostly because the anthologies these days are to introduce new talent, and I'm not a new talent guy. So the space used for me is being used for better people, which is wonderful to put people in, because that's how I broke in. I mean, God forbid they got that. My first was the Time Warp anthology, and they were like, Brian K. Vaughan just called Tom, you're out. That'd be the end of my career. So, I have no little 8-pagers coming up. Lots of 20-pagers and 28-pagers and 24. But it's sad because those are I love writing them. First of all, it's like a week off because it's a lot easier. It's a lot less writing to do because I only do one story a week. None coming up, sadly.
So can you announce the other 20 or 28-page stories, or is it too early still?
Lots of 28-page stories.
Single issues though. Single issues.
Oh no one shots coming up that I know of. Everything is a series.
Okay.
Yes.
Because as much as I appreciate a good 10-page story, I do appreciate good 1-issue stories as well. And you've certainly had your share of those, and they've been amazing.
Same. No, I don't think I have any sort of one. Danger Street has like a bottle issue, like a self-contained issue, and I think it might be the best thing I ever wrote. Issue 9. Yeah, it's crazy. It's insane.
So mentioning Danger Street, give everybody the 10-cent pitch if they don't already know the backstory on Danger Street.
Danger Street is for everyone who says there's too many Batman books in the DC universe and we need more to get the bench of DC heroes. These are the people that were kicked off the bench 30 years ago and are kind of lying underneath the bench. That's a dangerous thing.
Really? 30? I would think, honestly, in some cases, 50 years ago.
Yeah, no, I was being generous with the 30.
Let's be honest, man. Well, I was a little kid getting this stuff, so I remember these characters. Go on. Unless they haven't announced the roster yet.
No, the roster is announced. I mean, the idea was from. I have the trade right here since we're on the thing. DC put out this trade of the first issue specials. I'll hold it up for you.
Stand by, everybody.
First issue specials. There it is. Oh, look, I'm live on the.
So right there, right away, you got Atlas on top, Metamorpho next to him.
Alice Metamorpho, the Creeper, Dr. Fate.
Dr. Fate.
On the back, you have the New Gods.
The Green Team.
The Green Team. The Outsiders. This is our other New Gods. That's Lady Cop.
One of them, the Sandman, the Simon Kirby Sandman, the second Simon Kirby Sandman.
No, you don't have Sandman. You've got. Do I have the whole list here? There's 23 characters. I know that much.
Wow.
So what happened was there were 13 issues. I've heard different stories from different people, including Mike Gold, your friend, who probably knows it best because he was witnessing it. But basically, there was an argument between. Whether they would use Showcase. Showcase had always been their sort of place. They debuted new teams. Some people liked Showcase, some people didn't. And there was an argument in editorial, and they decided, no, number ones sell better than Showcases, but how can you have a bunch of number ones in a row? And they decided they were going to make something called the first issue special. So it was going to be a whole series of just number ones to replace Showcase. That's like the nice spin. The sad spin I've heard was that Kirby famously went to DC and then went back to Marvel, where he did a Black Panther and Captain America run. And after he had left, Kirby and Simon had left some bizarre comics behind, and they were just sitting there. And these were, two legends, Simon and Kirby, and they just needed a platform to launch to kind of get rid of these comics and make a small profit on them because they had paid for them and had been drawn and written. And so it was just kind of a place to dump old Simon and Kirby ideas and then add some new stuff, including stuff by Jerry Connolly, who writes, I think, 3 of the issues. So,
I didn't know that. I'm gonna have to, after that panel, I'm like, I got to get Jer back. And that'd be a great way too. That's a great subject we haven't really covered, is doing those first issue specials. He
does the New Gods one and the Codename Assassin one, and
good one.
I don't know. Does he do the Creeper one? No. Ditko obviously does the Creeper one. So So it's every issue is a new character or a group of characters, and some of them you have heard of. This wasn't their debut, but this is like Dr. Fate hadn't been around in a while. And of course, this is famous Marty Pascoe, Walter Simonson. That's the highlight of the whole thing. There's actually one good issue, and it's the Dr. Fate issue. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Great issue. I mean, truly, it was such a thrill finally doing Word Balloon, where I'm like, okay, I've been literally like sitting and talking to you guys about this issue for like 45 years. Please tell me about Dr. Fate. And both of them did not disappoint. And in fact, it was so good, it became a backup feature in Flash as well.
Yeah, it's an amazing first issue, and then there are The Outsiders is probably one of the worst comics ever written. That's why
more so than the Green Team. The Green Team's pretty rough too.
Oh, The Outsiders it makes no sense. It feels like if Simon wasn't like an old stodgy, I don't know, from World War II, you'd be like, this guy was on acid and suicidal, and then he wrote this guy. It goes nowhere. There's like a random origin story that doesn't back up people have nicknames, and then they have code names. Anyways, The Outsiders is a very weird story.
Who drew that one?
Simon did himself, I think. Joe Simon.
Because I know Jerry Grandetti drew the Green Team. And Jerry's a great, late golden age.
Why do you ask me the hard questions, John?
I'm sorry, buddy.
This? They're very, and he doesn't even put like a lineup. I kept having. They're all, anyways. They're in here, and they're very bizarre. Let's see what we have here. Oh, Jerry Grandetti. You're right.
It was Grandetti as well.
You got me beat.
Makes sense. Okay. And in a weird way, kind of like Frank Robbins. If you see his '70s stuff, your initial thought is, "That's ugly." And then, and I have to admit, I haven't reread either The Outsiders or the Green Team forever. But I will say about Frank Robbins, I really grew to appreciate him. And it's like, this guy's a genius. And that's why, as ugly as a lot of those Invaders issues seem to be to 10-year-old John, I'm like, that's some really great art. And of course, Roy just killing it on the Invaders.
Yeah, that's
Marvel.
That's true. Our Gail, if you're still watching, she had an excellent Green Team pitch in the New 52. If you haven't read that series, with Art and Franco doing the book, your buddy.
Yeah, Art and Franco did the book, absolutely, and you're right. And man, I'll tell you, I don't know if Franco would admit to this publicly or not, but just like the corporate nose that many of us face when we're earning a paycheck, they had a lot of great ideas that they were not able to capitalize on because of a bunch of, no, you can't use that character, and it's like, why? Well, not a really good reason, but no, and it's a shame. And that was, by the way, talking to DiDio last week. He really gave me a lot more about 5G and what he wanted to do with the big three within 5G. And that was really, really interesting because, we were just kind of going over things. There you go. To clarify, Gail says she wrote The Movement.
Right.
And Art and Franco. I thought that was their pitch.
I'm very old. My brain is not that clear. You have to
Thank you, Gail.
About me.
We want to, and certainly because Art and Franco should be doing more frontline DC books. I mean, they kill it on the kids' books, but they really do have really, really strong ideas. Artie, his eloquent reasons why Superman 4 is a better story than Superman 3. Yeah, it's a cheeseball of a production, but he is so right and is like,
better story than Superman 3. I mean, that's a pretty high bar, John. He carries a lake to a.
I know. It's not much, as I always say, not much of a cockroach race when you get down to it. No, you're right about that. You're absolutely right about that. What's second prize? What's third prize between the after those two? So anyway, Danger Street. This involves all these characters.
All through this. So there were 13 issues that came out, but since some of them are teams, that's why there's 23 of them, because the Green Team is 4, and I think Outsiders is 5 or 6. And the Dingbats of Danger Street is also 4. What's nice about that is, so I looked at that. I was reading that Jorge Fornes, who's one of these geniuses of comic books, who we just did Rorschach with, and I done some Batman with. We were sort of looking for our next project, and I was looking, and I was reading this trade, and I was like, can I do something with all of these characters? Like, what if they all existed in the same universe and they were all kind of colliding into each other? I'm very sure I was influenced by Fargo, which I had watched, the Fargo TV series, which is absolutely amazing, which is about sort of a bunch of characters all kind of crashing each other and sort of a crime series. And I was like, let's do that. Let's do a series with all of these very D and F list superheroes existing and having stories that impact all of them, so that you ring a bell over here and it has an effect over there. So Lady Cop, steps on a butterfly and Atlas falls over. Like, let's watch cause and effect sort of ripple across these people for 12 issues and see like who rises and who falls. And I've done a thing where I've taken sort of one obscure character and made them cool, tried to make them as cool as I can. And I was like, can we do that with 23? And I talked Jorge into it, because this is a hard thing to draw. It's a lot of characters, it's a lot of panels, and Jorge, God bless him, agreed to it. And immediately started turning in designs that blew my mind, just where he took kind of these big weird ideas and grounded them, so suddenly it felt real, and suddenly it felt like Lady Cop was the chief of police in your town, and it felt like the Dingbats were just the guys who lived down the street.
Dingbats.
Yeah, man. Bananas, non-fat, crunch, and good looks. They're the best.
Hey,
They're
man,
the best.
I'm trying to actually. All right, here. Maybe I'll just show them. But I went to an article at comicbook.com, James Viscardi's excellent site, and it shows the first issue cover that Jorge did, and then also a great shot of Atlas that I guess is a variant cover. So here, let me bring those up for a second.
Yeah, by Steve Rude. That's the Atlas cover.
There you go. Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense. Boy, oh, boy. Man, I miss that guy. I should try to talk to him, because it's been forever. There's the here, and I'll try and.
That's the Steve Rude cover.
Yeah, that's the Rude cover right there of Atlas. And who's that in the back? Oh, is that? Oh no, that's.
Those are just some Atlas bad guys. Those are just some Kirby bad guys.
I like it.
This is just an Atlas thing. And yeah, and there's the first cover. I mean, this is a super ambitious project. This is not like, I don't know. This is not a one shot. This is the most complicated thing I've ever written in terms of mapping it out.
Wow.
And I wrote 100 issues of Batman where we were trying to head in the same direction.
Well, and truly, dude, even your 12 issue stories like Mr. Miracle and the Vision, and certainly we're in the midst of Human Target. And God, when does the short story anthology? Is it tomorrow or this week, or is it next week?
This week to tomorrow. It comes out tomorrow. There's a Human Target short story anthology. It comes out tomorrow with art by Mikhail Hanin, my old friend from Batman, Raphael Albuquerque, who I've never worked with before, and it was amazing. And of course, Kevin McGuire doing a Booster Gold story, which is just, that's like a dream come true. That's like, when you're a kid, that's what you have a dream of, and I got to achieve it. So that's pretty good.
I'm very excited, Tom, honestly, and I've really enjoyed the series so much. And it really does play like making Christopher Chance a noir detective, even more so. in this story. And I've loved Peter Milligan's run, and going back to Len Wein and Dick Giordano. But truly, you and Greg Smallwood are just killing it on this series, and it's going to be fun seeing this week everybody's short stories. How many short stories in the book coming out?
There were 3. I mean, a few things with Human Target. Human Target's the one book, the first book. I mean, I shouldn't say this. I work with the best artists in comics, but you don't need my writing for this book. I do fine. It's fine. I know how to write a comic, but come for the art. Greg Smallwood's art is it's the best thing you'll see. It's him taking 1,000 influences from the 60s and 70s and today and mixing them up and creating something entirely new in a superhero comic. You're watching art in comic book form. It feels like you're watching. To me, it's like Kingdom Come, when I was just like, what the hell is this art? This is redefining what I think comics can be. That's what Greg Smallwood does.
And much like Alex Ross taking inspiration in his style from classic paperback painted covers of romance novels, science fiction, very realistic art. You could say the same thing about Smallwood with the greats like Robert McGinnis and some of the others that were from that era of men's pulps, men's adventure stories, and certainly the paperbacks. And yeah, man, I mean, good Lord.
And also he's using a lot of Disney cartoons, like, like for the backgrounds are taken from 101 Dalmatians. I don't know if you're
wow,
like that's. I'm not taking out. He's done this on Twitter. But yeah, like he takes it from everywhere. Oh yeah, Human Target is. I was just working on issue 8 today. God, it's really gorgeous. I mean, we did the right thing, which is after 6 issues coming out monthly, Greg needed to take a break, because if you're drawing like that, you need time to draw like that. So we gave him the time. So it's been a little while. Season 2 starts next month with issue 8, and and so tomorrow we have the. I was. We just wanted to fill. It's been a long time since Human Target. You wanted to give you just to say thank you to the fans of this book, to give them some content. Sure. And so basically, I mean, if anyone hasn't read it, it's also a JLI story. It's the Human Target meets the JLI. And so we reached out to some A-list artists. We're like, who's your favorite JLI character? And Raphael Albuquerque said he wanted Guy Gardner. Mikkel said he wanted Fire. And of course, Kevin said he wanted Booster Gold. So I wrote them 3 short stories. They're intermixed. It's more complicated than that because they overlap with each other. And then Greg drew the intro and the outro, so you get a little bit of beautiful Greg art in the book. And and it's I don't know, it's fun. It's a JLI story. To me, it's what I want from a JLI story. Everybody trying to do their best and everything going off the rails.
I'm with you, man. And my God, I saw a preview of Fire's issue coming up. I hope I'm okay to say that. That's all I'll say, other than just like Ice.
Oh yeah, I sent you issue 8, which is starring Fire, which I have advertised in my Stanley voice as the sexiest comic in 80 years of comics.
Dude, I hate to sound misogynistic, and I apologize, everybody, but I like pretty women. Greg, I was always in love with Ice.
There are pretty men in this. It's a pretty book.
There are pretty. Hey, man, Chris Chance could easily have been 1960s Paul Newman as Christopher Chance. I mean, I see everybody. If you want to see a live action version of what Greg and Tom are doing, watch the movie Harper. The first time that that Paul Newman plays the great Lou McDonald character that is really Archer in the books.
Yeah,
but I mean, it's great, and it really has that aesthetic, both not only the people but also the design and everything. So it does.
Did you watch the documentary, the 6-hour?
Not yet. Is it good?
Slacker! It's good.
I know.
So good.
That's awesome.
So good. It's at the last Hollywood movie stars, I think, something like that.
Yeah, and it's and on HBO Max. You better catch it while it's there. But it was made for Turner Classic Movies, and. No, man, it's amazing. You know, when I get sick and also when I get busy, I can't watch something new. I can't focus. I mean, I'll even confess I haven't watched She-Hulk yet. And I'm so glad that everyone's loving it. And I'm like, all right, fine. That means I'll have 2 episodes to watch this week and catch up. It'll be great. And I'm even behind on Only Murders in the Building with tomorrow, last episode dropping tomorrow for season 2. And that's an amazing show.
Very much, yeah. I watch it with my kids, so we're behind because we only watch 1 episode a week.
Magic K wants to know when Dangerous Street will be released.
So we have announced. So we announced it first, and there was some miscommunication. And basically, the last second, DC decided to go ahead with it to put it on the schedule. and do it bi-monthly. So we're going to do one every 2 months. I don't know if the word bi-monthly means one every 2 months, but I'm just going to use it as that thing. That came out. I wasn't a big fan of that, but it was sort of like the necessity for budget kind of things. And then Jim Lee, who's the smartest guy in comics, there's no doubt about that, saw that and said, no, we're not doing a series this complicated. It's bi-monthly, and made the right call, which was to make it monthly. And so we delayed it for Jorge to sort of get ready for a monthly 12-issue book. And he's already on issue 4, so he's cooking. We're going. And John, I've discussed this many times. I write all my books at once, so this is all finished. The scripts are all done. So I know when it is, but DC has not announced the official date yet. I think they will very soon.
Okay,
but it'll be soon. At some point next year, I will have out books with Slam Bradley as a star of one, and Ice and Human Target as a star of another, and Non-Fat and Lady Cop and Creeper as the star of the third. So
works for me, man. I'm very excited.
For a guy who just put out a huge Batman book, there's balance. There's balance in the DC force.
Right. And Humminus points out that, yes, Harper is called Moving Target in other countries. And then also, as Humminus points out, in the 70s, there was even a sequel to Harper, The Drowning Pool. And, it's, again, Paul Newman playing this character. And, again, it was Lou Archer in the books. It should have been. But there was a weird, like, almost superstition that because of films like The Hustler, movies that start with an H for Paul Newman were like the more bankable movies. So a ton of movies got different names in America versus other countries and stuff.
Interesting.
WUSA became Hall of Mirrors, for example.
The documentary is about it's equally about him and Joanne Woodward and their parallel careers and obviously how they overlap, being married for 50
and their
years.
Lifelong romance and marriage and everything too. My God!
But it breaks your heart right at the beginning, because in your head you're like, this is the one romance in Hollywood that worked, and I had no idea it started out with him. He was cheating on his wife with her for like 3 years, and he had 3 children with his wife, and they interview the first children about sort of what that was like. Ooh. So it doesn't pull punches when it starts. But
that's fine. That's good.
It's amazing. It's a much more, because in your head, I don't know about you, but like my parents romanticized that relationship, or my grandparents did. Like, they're the one Hollywood couple that really makes it. And so it was. I'm reading a comment that me laugh.
If only they did remake Butch Cassidy as Hutch Cassidy in The Hundance Kid. Indeed, absolutely, man.
So it's great. I for you old movie fans, it's an excellent documentary. Yeah. Ethan Hawke does it. If you're also a Gen X dude like me, Ethan Hawke is the most Gen X guy in the history of Gen X guys, and it's kind of just fun to spend time with the guy who's like that kind of, he's constantly doubting himself, but also wanting to create great art, but also slightly selling out, and you're like, yeah, that's my generation. That's my guy.
That's funny. I've got 2 theater stories involving Paul Newman and Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke was here in Chicago previewing the great Sam Shepard play Buried Child that he did with Ted Levine and an amazing cast. And I got to see him and meet him. And also, this is when he was dating Alicia Silverstone. And this is right when she was doing the movie The Crush and all those Aerosmith things. And I'm like, wow, she's sexy.
Alicia Silverstone? They must be very much younger than him.
Oh, yeah. And this is mid-90s. And she came to the previews. And I'm like, I am a dirty old man. And this is literally, everybody, 25 years ago when I was still in my 30s.
Story.
Because Alicia Silverstone was absolutely
legal. I don't know
legal.
who you are.
I know. But
my God,
in person, she looked like a little girl. And it's like, that is not cool. I am a creepy old man. And I'm like, I suddenly, my enjoyment of Alicia Silverstone's sexuality went away. Because I'm like, all right, you're a kid. Shame on me. All right, so there's that.
My mother was a Warner Brothers executive.
Yes.
And I very much remember when she went to some party and Alicia Silverstone was there, and she just, because there was it was a bunch of executives and she was playing, and my mother just felt like she had to be a mother to this young, and just took care of her the whole party, and came home and was talking about, oh, she's going to be in this movie that's coming up. I don't know what her first movie was. And she was just like, I had to take care of this poor girl. Because, it was Hollywood in the 90s was not a nice place.
She's a little waif of a woman. And this is, it was after Clueless. It was definitely after Clueless. So like 94, 95, something like that. Well, anyway, Paul Newman, living in, I believe, Summerfield, was the small town that, outside of New York that he lived in with Joanne. And my good friend from ESPN, Mike Greenberg, became a neighbor and got to know him on a good acquaintance level. And that just blew his mind, and he was so thrilled. And also, my good friend Susan Ferrara went and saw True West, another Stan Shepard play. And she's in SAG, and Paul's in SAG. And they seat SAG members in the same area and stuff. Or maybe it was New York Equity actors. But got to watch Buried Child. And Newman, absolutely in intermission, is like, so what do you think? Isn't it amazing? Aren't these guys great? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, I can't believe I'm talking to Paul Newman. This is fantastic.
The documentary is amazing because it was like, they had Brando, right? And they were looking for Brando types. And so then they found James Dean, and they're like, he's going to be our Brando. And Paul was just being washed out to sea. And then James Dean dies. And he just gets literally put in James Dean's role in the movie that I forget which one it was, but James Dean was not so. And then he just became that thing. Like he just became the inherited Brando, but he was never. I mean, Paul Newman is one of the greatest actors of all time, but he was never Brando. Like so, it's like it was always a struggle for him because Brando is like a platonic ideal of an actor. Why are we talking? We're way off topic. I love this podcast.
No, but that's what we do, and that's fine. And people get excited, and then they see you at conventions and go, "Hey, I'm an Ethan Hawke fan. I'm a Paul Newman fan." So that's good. It's all good, man.
Fan. Come on, he was in Cars 2.
Hey, man, and also, good Lord, Adam Carolla. Yes, as the Hudson. I didn't even know. And thank God there are a few old man things that I don't know. I'm like, I never heard of a Hudson. That's awesome, man. And I bought a Hot Wheels of a Hudson because of it. I'm like, that's a cool looking car. Anyway, oh God, what was I going to say regarding another Newman thing? God, what was it that he was in that I was the Adam Carolla produced documentary about Paul Newman's racing career and racing car owner career is so fucking good. You got to see it if you love Paul Newman. It is amazing. And I got to hand it to Carolla. I don't agree with a lot of what he does. He's a great podcaster. I think he's an excellent comedian. And he made that movie. And he also made the true story of Ford versus Ferrari, a documentary about that real story, talking to Ferrari people and Ford people. And God, if you love the James Mangold movie, you will love that documentary. And again, made by Adam Carolla. So I give him a shit ton of credit for making those things.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it's very bizarre that Paul Newman decided to drive race cars and drive them well and win races. That's a very odd. Yeah, he was an interesting person.
100%, man. All right, so let's get back. Gotham City Year One. Again, I will.
Back to pitching book.
No, these are good.
I like this better.
Just like you, I am such a Slam Bradley fan, and it is so thrilling not only to have you on this, but also Phil Hester. And here's the first cover, everybody. And
look at that, Phil Hester. That's with Jordy Belair colors.
Yes,
my
Jordy's
old
killing
friend.
it. Eric is
Jordy
killing
and
it.
Well, we didn't start together. She was always a big deal, but she was on Vision with me right in the very beginning. So it's nice to have a friend on the book.
But I mean, literally, again, going back to when I remember, wasn't it Detective 400, where all these former people that were in, early, like other DC detectives were with Batman, and including Sherlock Holmes as well. But Slam was in that story. I think that was my first awareness of Slam. And then, of course, during Brubaker and Darwin, and
when he was like the Robert Mitchum character in that thing.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, no, that is Slam Bradley, 100%. It is so right. And God, even in Darwin's solo book, Slam and Catwoman are kind of the wraparound story in that. And no, man, and also I just do love that Selena hooks up not only with Batman, but also Slam Bradley. And it's like, yeah, man, it's Slam Bradley. Who wouldn't? But he and Dr. Occult, these were the characters that pre-Superman even were part of the mix. And I mean, well, in the case of, I guess, Slam Bradley, I believe he was in that first issue of Action. Along with
Superman. He was he's a Simon Schuster creation made by he's in the first issue of Detective, not the first issue of Action. No, right? Yeah,
it's one of the two.
Oh God, yeah, I think it's Detective.
Okay, that's fine. But
because Action 1 is actual Superman. Yeah, so
but it had other
it had backups.
Yeah, it had backups, and that's why I think Slam was like one of those backups. But I could be wrong. Whatever, doesn't matter.
All right, you versus me. Whoever wins this, what are we going to bet on this? You're going to buy me a slice when I come to Chicago.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
All right.
Hey, man, I don't know if the last time you were at C2E2. Oh, well, yes, I do. It was 2019. It was the last con standing before we all.
Last con standing.
It was
been a while
before
C2E2 moved. There used to be a fall con. Now they're a summer con.
Well, I think that we'll see about next year. I have no idea how that's going to work.
I love C2E2. I love the carpet. They have wonderful food. The hotel's attached to the con. It is a very nice con.
Well, and the whole area has only gotten better. I mean, they've really built up a lot more restaurants and hotels in the immediate area, and it's outstanding. That's hilarious. Usab says time to talk about Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. We'll get to it. Don't worry.
Oh, I'm ready. Watch the whole thing.
But
it's been a while.
All right,
and then we'll talk about the offer. It's gonna be good.
Gotham City Year One, Beyond Slam. What else can you tell us about the story and who we're going to meet?
So my assignment for this was the Batman editor, Ben Abernathy, is one of the great geniuses of comics. If you don't know Ben's work, he's been around. He edited the Wildcats back in the day. So this is a guy who knows the comics. Called me and said, I want to do Batman's story without Batman. He's like, go into Detective before the first 27 issues and find something there that's interesting. And so I went and found it as best I could. And here's the basic problem with those first 26 issues. Oh my God, they're racist. They're like super racist. They're not like somewhat subtle.
Fu Manchu's on the first cover of of Detective.
And Bradley's first appearance, you don't even want to know what he's doing, but it's terrible. Don't look it up. It's horrible. And most of the heroes are just generic white guy number 3 beating up lots of brown people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was an immediate oh crap, what do I do with this? And obviously Slam Bradley was the best of the sort of bunch and had a sort of history. And I had been playing around with Noir, which is my favorite. That's my love. That's where I live. That's if I'm just relaxing, I'll throw on Noir. I watch it all the time. And I don't play football, but I mean Human Targets is very noir-y. There's a bunch of noir stuff in Killing Time, but I had never written one of those straight noirs. I had put some ice in it. I had made old fashions. I had made, but I had never just poured a straight Scotch and been like, this is. And I was like, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do a straight noir with slant and unapologetic. This is not you guys love superhero books. I love superhero books. This is not a superhero book. It's about superheroes. It's about the origin of Gotham City. I mean, that's what the idea started, where it's like, okay, what is this about? And of course, the best noirs are about the fall of city. The best noirs are about how a small case infects everything, like Chinatown. That's about the origin of LA, how LA turned from sort of a small little city to because of its corruption, because of the stealing of the water. And so I was like, I want to talk about Gotham the way Chinatown talks about LA. Like the moment that Gotham went from being any regular city. I grew up in LA. I went to school in New York. I live in DC. I live in cities. And I want to talk about why Gotham is not like normal cities. It's worse. It's a hellish place. It is a place where someone called an alley crime alley, and everyone's like, yeah, that totally makes sense. That is Gotham City. And so I was like, let's talk about the origin of Gotham City. Let's do it as a Chinatown-esque case. We will have a private eye. A beautiful woman walks into his office, drops something in his lap. He follows it up, and it explodes in his face and gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it haunts not only his life, but the entire life of the city. And through the city, it haunts Batman. It's the effects grow and grow and grow until you're sort of seeing a new origin and a new thing, a new effect. Because I never got to do a Court of Owls. I never got to do something to Batman that sure changed everything. So this was what I was going to do. And then we got Phil Hester on board, who draws perfectly. And Eric Gossipur is doing the inks, and they're gorgeous. And yeah, this is I don't know how to put it. I love this book. It's my safe space. And I can't believe they paid me to write it. Yeah, that's Batman's grandmother, Constance.
Yes, which is I didn't know. All right, because again,
Constance Connie Wayne.
That's amazing, man. And again, I just adore. Look at this art by Phil. So the right guy to do this thing.
It takes place in 1961, so we're way in the past. Batman's father, Thomas Wayne, has not been born, but he hasn't. Thomas Wayne's older sister has been born, and she gets kidnapped in the first issue, and it's about him trying to recover this kidnapped child. Michael
wants to write some Slam Bradley fan fiction. I like that. Her legs were like a run-on sets.
When I watch old, that's like a thing when I watch parody noirs. They constantly use those kind of bad metaphors and analogies. That's like, I mean, it's kind of like someone doing a Cary Grant saying Judy, Judy, Judy. Like he never said Judy, 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 but it's kind of a way to get in. Judy, Judy, Judy. It's like Frank Gorshin invented that. Like he just, like it's not real.
Well, it's to do the cadence of his voice.
Yeah, to do the cadence of and if you look at like actual old like noir detectives, or if you read Chandler, that stuff's not in there. Those bad metaphors are not in there. It's not like I drank a cup of coffee, it was black as the night. It's not like constantly these sort of bad poking. So I like to write in that style.
I felt as lonely as a warm beer at closing time. Exactly.
Every once in a while they'll throw one in, but it's most of them. These guys, 99% of them were stealing from Hemingway. That was their guy. Hemingway was their guy. Hemingway had come on the. I mean, this is an oversimplification of American literature. So
but I'm with you. Go on.
But Hemingway had come along, and he looked at American literature. How can I sort of carve my name into this? And American literature at that point had been sort of very flowery. It was from Walt Whitman. Walt Whitman just can't stop talking. It's just metaphor after metaphor after metaphor. And Hemingway his genius was like, I'm going to cut all that out and just write very simple declarative sentences that describe everything. And he did that, and it blew everyone's mind. It was, it was like when The Matrix came out and we were like, what movies can be like this? That's what people reading Hemingway were like, what prose can be like this? We can leave all that stuff on the floor and still write.
Spillane was like that as well.
Yeah. And so a lot of the people that fell from Hemingway, it became sort of and Hemingway was always the manly man. So it became a manly man way to write, to not use metaphor. Not like, what does metaphors have to do with dicks? I don't know. But that was the way it went. And then like the Southern Gothics ignored it, and like Thomas Wolfe and those guys. But most of the writers that write these noir novels come from the Hemingway school. So they're not going to use these blatant metaphors. They want to describe stuff in a clear and precise way that makes you feel like you're smoking that cigarette and you're taking that drink. That's what it's about.
I will recommend, because you're right about the literature of the time, but the radio shows of the time, there are a lot of great radio detective series. And my personal favorite, years before he did Dragnet, Jack Webb's Pat Novak for Hire. And that is loaded with these metaphors. And again, because all they had was sound, they needed to pump that stuff in. And just an amazing jazz soundtrack to it as well. And Raymond Burr was one of their stock actors that would come in, and William Conrad. And they're just these great little half-hour noir vignettes. And truly, man, there's a reason why Webb was so great when he created Dragnet, and was amazing as Joe Friday. The granddaddy, and much in the same way that Slam was kind of the granddaddy of DC detective heroes. That's Pat Novak, and I can't recommend it enough. It's just outstanding.
There you go. This is why you come here, for old radio show recommendations. John. This is morbid, but can you take over Gilbert Gottfried's show and do it with Frank?
Dude,
I want a petition. I want to start the petition.
I have forged an acquaintanceship with Frank Frederos, Frank Santopadre. Frank Frederos is their behind the scenes guy.
Yeah.
But Frank Santopadre, very sweet guy. He's been on Word Balloon once before. I keep meaning to have him back. Since Gilbert died, I know he and Dara are certainly going through a rough time. Dara, Gilbert's wife. What a great show. And it is, I mean, truly him and shame on me for saying even, but like his death, Saget's death, Norm Macdonald. I mean, we've lost some really funny, interesting people. And certainly in the case of Saget and Gilbert, incredible podcasters and great interviewers. And Gilbert's depth of knowledge, if you only know him as, oh, yes, and the voice and, all the silly stuff he does, which is fantastic. And his avant-garde stand-up. He was such a lover of old Hollywood and especially monster movies, but really knew his stuff. And they'd have all these incredible people on, like Lee Grant, who thankfully had a resurgence in the 70s, but was blacklisted when she was a young actress in the 50s, and a great stage actress and a great television and film actress as well. So many others. How's my Bela Lugosi, Psycho Cleveland? It's easy, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Children of the night. What music? I like his lines from Ed Wood. but I will create a race of atomic supermen that will conquer the world.
That movie's perfect. That's perfect.
You know what I love about Lugosi? The Poverty Row movies he made in between Dracula in 1931 and Abbott and Costello made Frankenstein in 1948, and he made a string of noirs and bad monster movies at like the lowest budget movie studios. Like Monogram was like a cup of coffee for him compared to some of the other crappy studios, and he did make his share of Monogram movies as well. But yeah, so that's a little Lugosi tangent. But I'm with you on Gilbert, man. I'd love to. I love that show. When I get to do interviews, as I just did with Mike Reese, one of the first Simpson writers.
You interviewed Mike Reese? Oh my goodness! My son. Oh, I cannot, because my son read Mike Reese's book like it was a Zapruder film, because he wrote a Simpsons memoir. My son, we're all big Simpsons
Springfield
fans.
Confidential.
Yeah, Springfield. My son loved that book and became like a huge Mike Reese fan, where he would just sort of quote Mike Reese quotes to me every day. So I'm going to tell him that you met Mike Reese. That's going to impress him.
Awesome. His collaborator on the book, Matthew Klickstein, has become a good friend. And he just made an incredible book coming out in a couple of weeks called See You at San Diego. It's the entire history of Comic-Con. You can watch and listen to the interview that I did on Word Balloon with him. But I'm also going to have another great from the Bronze Age. Trina Robbins is going to come on and talk about it as well and her career. And the great thing about Matthew's book about San Diego is, and Tom and I know because we've been there enough, yeah, on the surface and really like USA Today and CNN, oh, they're the nerds, tee. And it's like, yeah, guess what? Since day one, I mean, it's certainly the case now with the alt comedians that show up in San Diego and all the great hip filmmakers and hip TV people and stuff. Even in the early 70s, Frank Capra went to Comic-Con. Yep. And all these top writers and artists and filmmakers and TV people, they knew, and all the hipsters. So yeah, a bunch of us nerds that probably needed a shower and could use some more deodorant and stuff. Yeah, we were there, but we were rubbing elbows with Ray Bradbury and Ray Harryhausen, and again, Frank Capra, Scorsese and Coppola, and all these guys. And actually, I don't know about Scorsese, shame on me, but I do know Coppola was there. All of these people, well before Star Wars, which they say sometimes was the first big Hollywood splash at Comic-Con. But honestly, man, and that is the great thing about this book that Matthew just wrote. But in addition, he wrote the Springfield Confidential book. Mike came to Terrificon and was one of the guests and did a past Simpsons panel. And I got to meet him. And I'm like, Mike, I want to talk about everything, because not just his work on The Simpsons, but Mike was at the Harvard Lampoon. He was at the National Lampoon.
He did The Critic, one of the most underrated shows of all time. My God, The Critic.
We talked about Charles Napier, who played Duke, the guy who owned the TV station. That
I remember Duke, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, because that guy's like a great classic character actor.
You can't stream The Critic anywhere. You have to get it on DVD, and you can't even you have to get like it from eBay DVD. They got to get that thing on a streaming service. There's a scene in The Critic where a robot William Shatner goes insane and starts killing people, and as he does, he's just saying "buy my book" over and over again. And that's how I feel going to every buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. I was like, I've never related to a character more in my life.
No, I'm with you, man. But yeah, Mike was great, and I told him, and I told Matthew as well. I'm like, all right, now I got to talk to Mike's writing partner, Al Jean, who another amazing.
They've been the show. Well, I mean, Al Jean has been the showrunner for The Simpsons for 30 years, and Mike sort of has gone in and out as the showrunner, which is
the only seasons that Mike missed were the 2 seasons when they were doing The Critic.
Yeah, and do you know that when The Critic appeared on The Simpsons in the famous movie episode, the Boo Earns episode, that's the one episode that doesn't have Matt Groening in the credits, because Matt Groening was so mad they were doing cross promotion, he took his name off it.
Wow, no, I didn't know that.
If you watch the episode, you can go on Disney Plus and watch the episode now. You know that little TV where they do it. Matt Groening's name is not on there as the 3 creators.
Wow, I love when
take my name off of it.
When Patty and Selma are asking Lovitz, like, all right. Tell us who's gay in Hollywood. And he's going through the list, and all of a sudden Homer whispers in his ear, and he goes, oh, and MacGyver. And one of them just punches him out. And you see him black out, and the next thing he knows, it's like hours later or whatever. Oh, and MacGyver.
One of the great episodes. Put it in my veins. It's like part of our language now. It comes from that episode.
Oh, my God. Let's see. What is
put it in my veins.
Matt says I was in your Election Day 2020 signing.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Come back to Philadelphia for the midterms. Yeah, that'd be cool.
I should come after that, but Fetterman's kicking so much ass he doesn't need my help. That guy.
Damn you, Fetterman.
Doing.
Are either of us going to be at Baltimore? I am not. I don't know. I might be, but I would have thought if they wanted me to come back and shoot the Ringos as we did last year, that they would have contacted us by now. And that's okay.
I will be at Baltimore. I'm in Baltimore every year.
Are you?
Because that means it's a 45-minute drive. What am I going to go?
Sure. No, and that's the thing. No, I get it and everything. If that were closer, I probably would do it. But and and also, unless I got to be honest, kids, unless it's my backyard or someone's paying my dime, it's kind of tough right now. It's still kind of lean, which is why if you can support Word Balloon via Patreon and help the cause out, it would be greatly appreciated. I never want to do a specific, hey, I really want to go to San Diego. Would you support me? I'm like, listen, just support the show. That's fine. And I really appreciate. Good Lord,
I am a Patreon. I'm a guy.
You are a guy.
I am a guy who supports your show. I was going to say, I'm occasionally also the other thing. I obviously listen to hours of content on your show, and that is worth the price of a comic book a month to me.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. So that, it's ridiculous not to pay that.
Well, again, I'm
putting pressure, putting some guilt.
No, and I appreciate that.
I'm half Jewish. I can pour this stuff on.
It's less than 10% of you actually do pay for Word Balloon, and that's I appreciate every dollar I get every month from you guys and the commercials that we run as well. And and I'll leave it at this, and Tom and I'll talk after the show if he wants to anymore. I bugged him last week because a couple podcasters were like, it's really a shame that commercials and Patreon have compromised comic book podcasting. And it's like, fuck you. And and if you know who you are, I'm talking about you, but I'm not going to name names. But it's
controversial on the podcast.
Again, it's like, do what you want with your podcast. If you want it to be completely pure and free, God bless you, man. No one's telling you have to do this. I do kind of think, and again, with all due respect and humility, I do kind of think these conversations add to the enjoyment of comics.
John, I was walking around, walking my dog, and I'm listening to your podcast. I'm having a good time, ton of fun. And then one of your commercials comes on, perfectly fine. That happens in every single podcast I've ever listened to. And the commercial comes on, and it's like, DC residents. I was like, wait a second. I'm a DC resident. John Sundress is spying on me through the podcast. No way he had just – I
can explain.
Used the location in my phone to send me a commercial just for me. He's the new Facebook now. John Sundress now is stalking his listeners. Well, I was very impressed by your technology to get me.
Truly, that's Spreaker, my network. They target, they aggregate by commercials and are like, and I'm just going to throw out a number. We've got 5,000 podcasts with a combined audience of several million. You might want to advertise with us. And I'll have McDonald's commercials. I'll have dispensary commercials, whatever that I allow. And the great thing is not only yourself in DC, but I've had Australians go, hey, our pharmacies chain, like Walgreens or whatever, they're like, how did you get that account? And I'm like, I didn't. That's my network. So they geolocate where you're listening, and they will tailor commercials to your region. So
very impressive, my friend. Very impressive.
Kenneth, what did you say here? Well said, John. Too many of those channels hate on the stuff we love. We should all love stuff we enjoy, not on things we love. Well, I appreciate that, Kenneth. But of course, I'm sure we'll have a moment or two to talk about my frustrations with Star Trek. But as much as I like Strange,
you know how to push the John Sundress button.
So, Love Everlasting continues to thrill, and dude, honestly, I'm so glad that you and Ilza are working on this thing, and I know based on watching her crowdfunding initiatives for sketchbooks and everything else that she does, in addition to Love Everlasting, I'm so glad that people are finally getting the news that it's like, hey, pay attention to this woman. She is a brilliant artist. We mentioned Darwin Kirk earlier. She is like, Darwin's spiritual successor and self-taught. And God damn it, her videos are incredibly made and so smart. And her analysis of why a comic panel or page works. I mean, she gets it. And it is so great that you guys are working together because you get it. And we get this amazing time travel romance that is shit tons of fun and a great homage to people like Barbara Freelander and the great DC and Marvel romance writers and artists and editors of the Silver Age.
I mean, I could not have asked for a better partner in this than Elsa Charte. She is absolutely amazing to work with on a business level. I mean, we're doing a lot of business because this is on Substack, this is on Image, this is going to be in Hollywood. And
hey, excellent, man! Congrats.
Yeah, well, when I run into that wall, we'll talk about that.
All right,
can we? Someday we have to talk about my TV show because I've never talked about publicly, and I want to talk about my Tommy Lee Jones TV show I had.
Yes,
we got to talk about that. Wasn't
please?
She's an incredible artist and an incredible businesswoman, and I'm lucky to have her. This is the first Image book I've ever done, the first creator-owned. It's a brand new thing for me. I've always sort of had someone to hold my hand. And to suddenly be sort of out there on my own is different. But I love this book. I love how it turned out. It's a very weird book. It's a book about, I was, someone's like, oh, your Image book is coming out. Are you going to do a post-apocalyptic, or are you going to do? It was like 3 Image books. Or are you going to do a vampire? And I was like, no, we'll do a romance comic that goes wrong. That's. So like it has a setting that's sort of never been used in a while. It's told in a voice that's been dead for 50 years because it's used these old romance tropes. And our launch was huge and people bought it and people loved it. And it's been an absolute joy. And it's I couldn't be more proud of how that book turned out. And because of all the support on Substack, we're super far ahead. We're just, I think, 8 issues are in the can. So it's just going to keep coming out. And yeah, I love it. If you haven't picked it up, it's Love Everlasting from Image, and you can go to the Substack if you want to subscribe. No pressure, and we're planning on doing this. I've said this before. I'm trying to make it my Sandman, and by that I mean I can't write like Neil writes. Neil's the most brilliant guy ever, but I'm trying to do something as ambitious as what Neil did and use sort of my strengths to do something where we look at the entire history of storytelling instead of through a horror lens, through a romance lens, and what romance is, and the same way that Neil sort of like deconstructed horror and said horror can also be all these other things. It can be sad, it can be wonderful, it can be beautiful. We're taking romance and making romance can be scary, it can be thrilling, it can be all these other. So we're doing the exact same thing. So it's not a romance book, it's more of an examination of romance books. Yeah,
understood.
If you want to check that out.
Lewis wants to know if we were to ever see an adaptation, who would you cast as Joan, your protagonist?
Oh, I'm not going to fall into that trap, Lewis. We're going to eventually have to cast this thing, and I don't want some great actor to come and be like, well, what did Tom say about me? He didn't cast me for this role. No, I'm going to stay silent on who to cast for this role. Yeah, I mean, I have some people in my head. Mostly relatives that I'm, mostly, yeah. So I don't know. It's gonna be cool. I mean, it's a very easy show to pitch. It was one of those things where I did the Hollywood rounds, which you now do on Zoom instead of flying out there and doing like a week of meetings. It's all about the Zoom. So I did like 10 Hollywood meetings in 3 weeks, pitching it over and over and over again. And the response we got was just incredible, where people are like, "Oh, what? You have a show with a female lead that's about romance, but actually is Quantum Leap? All right, let's talk." It was
absolutely.
It was a very easy sell. Thank God.
Zach wants to know any difficulty or challenges going from digital first to print.
I mean, the most a difficult challenge. I mean, this is not to say it's never been done in the history of comics, but it's something that has not been done a lot. Which is to say, we put this comic out for free. It was always sort of our intention to not put it behind a paywall on the Substack, and to say, okay, here's a free comic, and then we're going to go to Image and ask stores to buy something that people could get for free. Was nobody knew how that would turn out. We just did. There's been stuff where people have made digital comics. There's of course been what Brubaker and Vaughn have done, where they've sort of asked people to pay what they want, and then they put it out as a trade. But to say like here's a comic, and there's web comics that have been collected, so that's kind of. But a 24-page comic that's out there for free that you're not going to buy, and it went a lot better than we thought, because we as comic book writers and readers, fans, I don't know if you knew this, John, but we're nerds and we like to collect things, And we like to put things in boxes and put them in bags and board them. And we like to have the first one of something that might be a TV show. And I'm the same way. And if I really want to get lost with something, if I want to fall into it, if I want to disappear, I cannot read it digitally. I read a lot of comics digitally because it's my job and I get it easier for free that way. But if I want to sit down on a couch and read something where I disappear from the world, I need to have it physically. And it turns out most comic book readers are that way. 90% of our audience is that way. So
yeah. Well, and it's art too. It's art. And I mean, there is a difference, and I've said this for decades now, sadly, but there is a difference appreciating a piece of art and having it as your wallpaper on your computer, and then owning a book or even a piece of original art. Terrificon. I bought a Howard Chaykin page from his Magneto annual he did from Marvel, and it's great. And I really wanted, I would have been happy with a Noir page, but I saw that and I'm like, oh, and I didn't even realize it was Magneto. I thought it was something from Hey Kids Comics, his create her own thing. And it's like, yeah, I mean, again, Alex Ross's wonderful multi-Starman cover that all assembled and became one big image, and it had all the various iterations of Starman. I love that piece. That is my wallpaper. I wish I had a print of it or something like that, because there's just a difference with art, I think. And again, it's not, and I read just like you, man, I read my share of stuff on my tablet, and I'm glad. And I really thought when the iPhone came out that we were going to get digital comics just, the size of baseball cards.
I was there for the Thrill Bent release when I was literally in the room as Mark Waid was explaining to me how all comics were about to change and we were all going to be widescreen and we're going to have special effects on them. And as much as I love Mark, he's one of my favorite people in comics, I'm glad that future did not come. I'm glad our future was print and was comics and stayed comics.
Tyler wants to know what was the process of securing all the various variant covers that you've been able to get for Love Everlasting.
I mean, it's ongoing. I mean, the nice part about Love Everlasting is it's a very, like I said, it's a weird book. We have no idea how anyone's going to react to it. There's no sort of comp on the market where you could be like, okay, Saga sells that much, so this is what we'll sell. Or there's no book like it.
Sure.
But we did the Substack thing up front. So Substack came to us and said, make a comic, we'll give you a bunch of money. This was going to happen once every generation if we're lucky. And so because of that, we now have the budget not to make Image comics are great, but to make a comic that can compete with DC and Marvel in terms of the quality of art and the quality of, hiring a top letterer in Clayton, hiring a top artist in Hollingsworth, and hiring top cover artists like, Clay and Tuolete and those all people. Yeah. So it was just a matter of going to people and saying, hey, we love your art. We'll pay your DC rate. Here's the first 6 issues. It's not like something where you're like, here's a script, see if you can make something of it. We have the actual, you can just read the whole free comic for free. And so we just picked our favorite people and went from there. Elsa is I'm a little more mainstream because I work with those mainstream guys and they're my friends. And Elsa is a little more indie because she came up that way. So we kind of balance each other out.
Zach wants to know, did you and Elsa ever consider going straight from digital to trade, or was the plan always to go with monthly issues?
No, we never considered the Ed Brubaker model. I don't know how he sort of made that calculation. I mean, basically we approached Image. I mean, this book started as an Image book. It was an Image book before it was a Substack book. So we were sort of already down that path. We'd signed contracts and everything to do it as individual issues by the time Substack launched us. And I think Image knows that business better than we do. And they said this was the best way to go in terms of how to do it. There's going to be a trade. It's going to be a beautiful trade. I'm still like fucking Trump. God, kill me.
It's going to be excellent.
No, don't get his voice out.
Dude, I know. I was at a dinner party last night and I broke into Trump. Like, do more. I'm like, it's not fun. I'm like, he's a horrible, horrible person. But I have to say, though, James Austin Johnson, beyond the obvious vocal tones, the growl that he does, a lot of people are saying this. You say that, and then also just the words that he uses, and it's like you can get the voice, but if you really get him going, so many people are saying this, and a lot of terrible people. Like, you need the words along with the voice. That's
you do an excellent Trump. I do. I let you. It's not a lot of people doing Trump still doing the 1995 Trump. You're doing the modern one, but I don't want to think about that guy.
I know. Sorry. Believe me, I hear you. Good Lord. I know it's been 2 weeks of, I thought we already hit bottom. Oh no. And we're starting to fall again. Jesus. It's like the nightmare that never ends. Moving on.
Forget. Anyway, it's good. Yeah, we're going to get a trade. It'll be a very nice trade there. I take out the word beautiful.
I'm trying to find the comments specifically, and forgive me everybody, but several people earlier
we wanted to do a number because we're trying to do a series. Elsa's willing to do 30. I'm trying to push her past that. I want to have a number one. I want to have like something that I see like, oh my God, so the first people who jumped on get a number one, that when it is a TV show, God willing, when it is a big success, those people get a good paycheck. They get to go on eBay and sell that thing for as much as they can. I want. I mean, it's a bizarre ambition to have because I don't get any pennies from it. But I just maybe just ego wise, I want to see a Love Everlasting up. You go to a con up there, slab for 9.8, sell them for something.
Well, and again, everybody, if you sign up
Phoenix 720, thank you.
Phoenix says, just let you know, I bought a Love Everlasting in my local store. Love the first issue. And also, if you want to support the Substack, it is free there. I mean, that's the great thing.
It is free. You don't have to.
Here is for the bonus stuff. Yeah,
the paid tier. If you want to, God bless you. If you want to subscribe to the paid tier, there's a way to get. I think the sketches are all taken up, but there's a way to get. I post my scripts on there so that for people who pay. I do a little podcast every once in a while. But if you just want to read the comics, come on and subscribe to the Substack and read the comics up front. Or you can wait to buy them from us in your local comics store, which benefits your local comics store and Image Comics and myself. So why am I encouraging you to subscribe? What am I doing? I'm killing myself.
Lewis says, after reading Killing Time, I felt like it was played like a damn fiddle, but I'm quite entertained by the twist. I think that the answer to the mystery was right on the cover of every issue. Bravo.
Thanks. Yeah. Nothing. No. I'm bad at titles, as evidenced by Danger Street. God, we tried 50 different titles for that comic, and Danger Street was the best we could come up with. But so every once in a while, I come up with a good title. Killing Time was a good title. That because it means like 1,000 different things. For people who've noticed that I use the narrative, I stole the narrative from the movie The Killing, so it's just an immediate call out to that. The actual comic is we decided to kill the way comics are told in terms of telling them linearly, so we killed times. You could take Killing Time, it's 28 pages, 6 issues, whatever that math is. You could throw all the pages on the floor and read them in any order, supposedly. Hopefully, if I wrote them correctly. So we that was Killing, and of course, the big twist of it was that I guess it alludes right to the big twist is what Killing Time is and sort of who it is, and then the whole thing is about sort of how we pass our time is the theme of the book. Yeah, I've never made a good title, but that one was good. I'll take credit for that one. Having done a lot of bad titles.
Magic K wants to know, getting back to Hemingway, did you use iceberg theory in Rorschach? I think it has some Hemingway's The Killer's inspiration in the Rorschach series.
Yeah, I love The Killers. If anyone hasn't read Hemingway, if anyone's seen the movie The Killers, Hemingway's short story is just the first 5 minutes of The Killers. It's just the scene in the diner, where the two guys come in and talk about killing some guy, and then all the rest of that great movie, which is the Ava Gardner, that's all just added on. But for Rorschach, how much Killers was there? Well, probably a little bit. I mean, I try to cut back on my prose, probably too much. I don't like to use fancy words. If you read Supergirl, I throw that all away and use a bunch of fancy words. So I contradict myself. I contain multitudes there. There's some more.
Someone had asked earlier about Supergirl and would you get back to her, and they were praising the series. That's what I was trying to look for earlier.
I'd love to get back to Supergirl. I'm going to pronounce her name. I've been calling her Bilquis for a long time, and then I found out her name is Bilquis. So I apologize for that. Bilquis Evely. I would do anything with her. So if she wanted to do Supergirl, I would do Supergirl again. So that would be the thing. I love that character. It's one of those. Sometimes I listen to a lot of podcasts, and every single writer is always like, "I love this character," There's no writer who comes on and was like, ugh, they made me write Guy Gardner. I hate Guy Gardner. He's the worst. Like, no one ever says that, right? They're always like, oh, I love this character. So it just seems like such a cliche to be like, I love this character. I can't say when I first got Supergirl, even though I think I asked for her. She was not assigned to me like most characters. I was like, I want to write a Supergirl story. Mostly because my editors had moved. The Batman editors moved all to. I was working Batman. They moved all this to Superman office, and I'm like Snape in Hogwarts, where I really want to write super. Like, he always wants to do Defense Against the Dark Arts, and he never gets the job. And there's a new guy every year, and he's like, "What the fuck?" That's like me and Superman. I've been at DC for 10 years. I never get to write Superman. I really want that gig. I've been slowly killing every single person. But since I can't get that gig, I was like, I just want to work on anything Superman. So I thought there was room to run with Supergirl. And yeah, she turned out to be, just in writing her, to be just a superb character and super fun. In terms of, like, you know, she's seen some shit, she's been through some shit, but she's still fighting and going forward. There's just a lot to mine there. Yeah, I'd love to keep writing her.
And yeah, and that's, we've talked about this before. I love the modern spin that it's like, no, Supergirl was a teenager and remembers Krypton vividly.
That's not modern at all, John. That's her origin story.
Well, I realize that, but they never leaned into it in the Silver Age.
That's true.
She really was subordinate to Superman, and that's what I mean in terms of to really, like, take hold of that. And it's like, no, actually, when it comes to Krypton, Supergirl's really kind of the expert, and little Kal-El was the little kid that she babysat and stuff. So I love that, and it only makes their relationship more interesting. Kenneth would love to see you continue with Supergirl again. Interesting request regarding the TV show. He'd love to see put Alex Danvers in the story. She's a badass, and sure, that was a good character on the TV show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff from the TV show that people stand that deserves a platform. But
too bad the actress who was Chloe Sullivan in Smallville went batshit on us, because that's a great character. Just saying. Saying.
Hey, how bad was it? It wasn't like she was trying to brand people.
Yikes! What a weird. I haven't watched that documentary yet about that cult. And I can't even remember where it's playing or anything. But
it was on HBO. My wife and I watched it. Yeah, that's a
yikes.
My father was into those cults when I was a kid. I used to go to them, different kinds. You know, I grew up in LA in the 80s and the 90s, so those were around. So I remember going to kind of these management conferences with my dad when he'd be like, someone would go up and be like, if you do our system, you know, you'll change your. It wasn't about like you'll make money. It was like you'll change your life. Yeah,
yep.
And people were just like, yeah.
No,
I remember and they were all dudes with ponytails, as was my father. Thank you so much. I would love to write Supergirl again. Boy, I'm busy, but I'm so busy. I think I'll be busy for the next like 5 months or so. Then we'll come up with a new project.
Okay. Phoenix wanted to know, if you did write a Superman series, would you try for a 100 issue run for him like you did with Batman?
Yes, of course. 100%. And then I would do 100 issues of Wonder Woman. And then I would die because I'd be 100 years old. And I would be useless to you as a writer. I would be making Columbo references, and people will be like, what are you doing, you old man? Get the hell off of my stage. Yes, I would try. I probably could never do it again, because I don't think they'll ever do Double Ship again. I mean, I think that was kind of a unique moment in comics. And,
you know, I meant to get into that more with Dan, and I'm going to have to remember to get back to it when we pick up the conversation after a couple more Frank Miller Presents issues come out. Dan, Will Dennis, Shelley Bond, these people that I admired from afar for so long and wanted on Word Balloon, and now that they're out of DC and they have a chance to breathe and also can look back and reflect. And again, no disrespect to DC, but I mean, it's just that, like, a lot of times they won't allow the editors to talk to me and stuff. And it's great to get the stories about things like double shipping, because as much as it was good and I think exciting, and we appreciated that kind of regularity and stuff as far as issues, I mean, I know it was a backbreaker at Marvel with 18 issues a year. You know, that's what kind of drove Brubaker out of Marvel. It was just like, I don't want to, I want time to be able to do other things. I want a chance to breathe, and having to juggle artists. And I know you had to do this with double shipping as well. Was it easy to shift focus and everything, and kind of simultaneously crank out shit? As you say, you also write in advance, so maybe it didn't affect you in the same way.
No, I mean, this is before I did that, because that was pre-COVID. Okay. This is when that was probably my desire now to write everything as a novel comes from sort of that experience. It was hard. I mean, it's not easy. I made this stupid decision from the beginning to not change stories with or to change stories with artists. So if I was doing, so each artist would have their own story. So if I was switching artists, I would switch stories.
Yeah.
But that had the effect, because I feel like I've said this before, but if you're on Batman, you need A-list artists. A-list artists these days can do 6 to 9 issues a year. I mean, there are exceptions. Jorge, who's on Batman now, is a monster, and there's like Dan Moore I can do incredible. But most great A-list artists, you're talking 6 to 9.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking actually you do 24 issues a year, that means you just do the math. You need 3 artists at least working at the same time. So that means I was writing issue 51 for Lee. At the same time I was writing issue 26 for Mikkel. At the same time I'm writing issue 44 for Joel. Just one after another. Dan DiDio used to make fun of me because my system was I had an editor, Jamie Rich, who's now at IDW, a wonderful editor. My guy, I'm turning into Trump. A wonderful editor. And our system was I would write a script. I would turn in the script. When I turned in the script, he would tell me the next script I had to write because he would just keep track of the artists that needed to be fed. And so I would just do it that way. And DiDio always thought that was so funny. He's like, how do you decide what you're going to write next? I was like, at Friday, Jamie sends me an email like, all right, next week you're working on this issue. But it was fun. I mean, it's Keith Giffen has the best quote on comics, my favorite quote of all time, which it's vaudeville, baby. Just kidding. like that. It was vaudeville, man. You got to get on stage. If one of your dogs is sick, you just got to replace him with the dog you find in the alley and keep going. That was what Double Ship was. It was vaudeville, and so there's a certain wonderfulness to that.
Chad wanted to know. I know you can't specifically say anything, but as a random guess, how much of Sheriff of Babylon is real? I'm sure it's a mashup of many things, but curious as to how close to reality it is.
I mean, it's as close as I could make it. I couldn't, like, for example, I could not write it today because I don't think I could remember it all. I wrote that when I was 2010. I wrote that, so I was only 6 years out of Iraq. Now it's been 15 or 20 almost. I mean, every single location is real except for one. I had to make up one location, which is the morgue. I never went to the Green Zone morgue. I had to make that one up. But except for that, I think it's like one scene in issue 2. Everything else is real. All the characters are based on people I knew. I mean, they're amalgamations, of course, but they're all based on people I knew. And I mean, there are just little scenes everywhere that are. I mean, all of it is stuff real. I have a scene where a senator is visiting a tiger cage, or a lion cage, and they tell the senator about how they found remains in the lion cage, human remains of lions eating. And then the senator's like, we need to tell everyone about this. The lion cage is what this is all about. This is what the war. And I was there. I went on this tour with a senator of this lion cage, and he said those words. So yeah, most of it is based on true stories. That I mean, I get farther and farther from it, so I'm more open about that stuff. Who cares about these secrets anymore? It's so far behind us.
Yeah, sadly, yeah. I mean, we're on current atrocities as opposed to the stuff that you guys faced and everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, the first scene in the book where Chris is in the little Baghdad, what was it called, the Green Zone Deli? I can't remember what it was called. I mean, that was blown up a month after I left. So it's like that's been gone for 20 years, right?
Wow.
Like, so who even remembers these things anymore?
Harsh, man. Zach wants to know, are you DC exclusive? He still wants to see you eventually write Fantastic Four.
I am DC exclusive. For this reason, I feel like I've sucked up to him enough, but I like him. During the pandemic, in the middle of, like, I think sort of the worst moments of a lot of our lives was sort of when everything was shutting down and we literally did not know if we'd have a society in like 2 weeks. It was very bizarre and we're trying to process it. And for comics, we don't touch each other in comics. We're the best industry. We were in like movies. We were in like sports. None of us, we do all of it independently. Mitch lives in Minnesota. Clayton lives in Michigan. It's like we don't need it. And then, but there's only one point where someone has to touch each other in comics. Someone has to take the comics off the truck and bring it into a store. And those people stopped working. And that's when all of comics shut down. It was the only human action. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, do we have an industry anymore? And Jim Lee called me on the phone. I remember I was very well sitting in this very room now. And I was like, Jim, what's the future? And he said, just keep writing. I mean, he's like, keep writing. I'm going to pay your checks. And you get ahead, you get as far ahead as you can, and we'll make this work. And if you're not loyal to a boss when he's like that, when you're like, how am I going to feed my kids? My industry is dying. And he said, let's go. I mean, that's how you get people to follow you. And that's who Jim Lee is a person, just so you know some behind the scenes stuff about how solid that guy is.
That's great to hear.
So yeah, I'm a DC guy. Until they kick me out, which I'm sure they will soon, because mostly I'm doing Batman animated series now, and a lot of Sesame Street.
Especially retro Sesame Street.
Yeah, retro Sesame Street.
The Cookie Monster promotes obesity. Shut up! Shut up! Good Lord!
Sesame Street back. When my kids were little, I made YouTube compilation videos of the old Sesame Street, because even when my kids were little, I was trying to retroactively raise them in the 1970s, and you watch those like first 5 years of Sesame Street when Bert and Ernie are Frank, are Oz and Henson, and it's funnier than Abbott and Costello. It's so goddamn good. It's some of the best TV of all time. Go back and watch that pair, Bert and Ernie, and the Cookie Monsters. There's a Cookie Monster Kermit interaction that's one of the best comedy sketches I've ever seen in my life.
There you go, man. No, they were great. They were absolutely great. Their timing, and I'm so glad that the Muppet Show, they threw it back on Disney Plus, because that is really great entertainment as well. Now, those people really know what they're doing. I tried rewatching the Muppet Show with my kids, and that show is brilliant. Don't get me wrong; it has moments of brilliance, but in between the moments of brilliance, there are long stretches of either puns, because that show is all puns. Oh yeah, or like we're gonna have an 8-minute section where flowers sing opera, and my 3 kids can't do 8 minutes of flowers singing opera, so that didn't roll over with them as well as Sesame. I can appreciate that. You got to cut to pigs in space. Yeah, as soon as the Swedish chef arrives, yes, as soon as Rolf is a doctor cutting somebody open, that's good. Did you watch the ABC sitcom from a couple of years ago that they tried to do, where it was the more adult Muppets, and it wasn't anything dirty? Oh man. I heard it was good. It was like, it was really funny. And I was so angry at these parent groups that are like, and it's like, sit down and shut up. It's funny. And Fozzie was dating Ricky from Garfield and Oates, the tall blonde. Oh, really? Yeah. And she brings him home to meet her parents, and her parents are like, you're dating this guy? And it's Fozzie. And it's just crazy shit. But I mentioned the Swedish Chef. They were at a nightclub, and somebody's playing hip hop, and all of a sudden the Swedish Chef breaks into rap, and of course it's in his broken Swedish, and it's like, what the hell is happening right now? This is fantastic, and it really is. I don't know if it's on Hulu, or I'm assuming it'd be on Hulu and not Disney Plus, because it is a little more adult. Sorry, I remember Ron Richards being the counter argument on some cable thing. And some woman from a parents group is, well, this is terrible. This is why. And Ron's like, I think it's funny. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I think it's funny. Oh, and Muppets too. I know this. Nothing has been more up my alley, but it might be the funniest thing in my movie history, when Peter Falk and Kermit have their one little scene halfway through Muppets 2. That might be my favorite scene in movie history. When it's just Peter Falk has like in the middle of this movie has a 6-minute monologue about opening a cleaners that relates to absolutely nothing, and it like literally pees my pants. I just thinking about it makes me laugh. Absolutely.
He goes up to Kermit. He's like, Kermit's like sad because Miss Piggy broke up with him or whatever. And he's like, I know exactly your problem. Kermit's like, you do? He's like, yes, your brother opened up a cleaning and is competing with you. And it's like a 10-minute.
Wow, wow. That's not even close to my problem.
And he's like, oh, want to buy a watch? Oh my God. Peter Falk and Kermit. There is a God. Well, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, you go from that, and then you go to Wim Wenders' Wings of Desire.
Yes.
And he's talking to the angel, and even though, and because he used to be an angel and stuff, and it's just like, as you know, I mean, good Lord, Lieutenant Columbo aside, so many other great performances. He was so the man. He really was.
It would be enough. Columbo would be enough.
Did you ever see that movie he made with Paul Reiser where he's his father, and they're on like a road trip?
I think I have when I was a kid, but I just watched Princess Bride with my children. I know that's the most generic Peter Falk of all time, but he makes you cry with 3 words at the end of that. I got tears in my eyes. Oh my God!
I hear
he's
you.
on the screen for 7 minutes and gives like an Academy Award winning performance.
See, I knew he wasn't dead. All right, shut up. Anyway, let me tell more of the story.
Yes.
And Roommates, the movie made with D.B. Sweeney where he plays his grandfather. That's the movie that makes me cry because it reminds me of my grandfather. And just that tough son of a bitch, man, with his poor little kid loses his parents and he's like, he's staying with me. And the guy's like already like 70 or whatever. And he's like, I'm going to take care of him. Don't worry. And it's like, yeah, man, I could think of a million people in my family that had that same kind of hard-nosed attitude, men and women. Don Lenza, of course, Jose Greco's De Muertos, Flamingo Dancers of Death, if you know your in-laws references. Very good, Don.
Yes, very much.
Oh, my God.
We watch in CIA training, we watch a lot of in-laws.
That's excellent.
At the farm, there was a lot of in-laws. Whenever I think of the in-laws, I think of our training. They would I think it was like more like, here's not the way to do it. It was like, a running joke, but there was tons of in-laws clips.
Oh my God, I love that. And
like the scene with David Paymer when he's
David Paymer, absolutely. He's the cab driver,
and he's confessing the whole thing. It's like, don't do this.
Well, the best is he's like, what are we? They're in the bar and it's like 9 a.m. and they're watching The Price is Right. And Peter Falk's like, what are we watching here? You say, kidding, man? That's The Price is Right, the All-American game show. He goes, how long has this been on TV? He goes, since 1910. Well, I'm out of the country a lot. I don't get to see stuff like this. So,
Serpentine, Phil. Serpentine. My brother and I used to shout that out to each other as we anytime when we were kids. Serpentine, Phil.
Mike Greenberg and I from ESPN, we used to bond over that as well. And his parents could quote the movie chapter and verse along with us. If the Chinese Revolution hadn't happened, Billy and Bing would be the anchors of the 6 o'clock news right now. Sure. Oh my God, that movie. And just the car chase. Yeah. Okay. Shell, sometimes I think I'm so smart I scare myself. And he shoots the bananas off the truck. Fantastic, man. I've got flames on my car. Flames.
That is a really good.
I've been doing Alan Arkin literally since I've seen that movie.
Oh,
all
man.
Right, really? We're gonna have.
You don't hear a lot of Arkins out there. I enjoy this.
I know. That's one of my proud voices that not a lot of people do. Alan Arkin. That's true.
Alan Arkin, great Gottfried interview. So
he and Adam, the father and son,
did it together.
And it broke my heart that he didn't come back for the final season of Kaminsky Method on Netflix.
I didn't know that.
Their chemistry is so great on that show. Him and Michael Douglas in the first 2 seasons, they just rule. I mean, and they're just these great dinner conversations of the two of them and stuff. Very, very funny. Excellent stuff.
Something else I have to watch. That's all I do is watch things.
Well, I'm here. That's why I'm here for you, man.
That's why I feel guilt.
What other BS? I mean, first of all, are there other books that we haven't mentioned that we should talk about?
The Supergirl trade is out. So if you like Supergirl, that trade is out. We didn't talk about what the one bad day. The thing.
Yeah, one bad day. Tell me
that was
about
big.
One bad day.
Jeez, that was all over. People were upset. I mean, that's again, my assignment for that was do Killing Joke for the Riddler. And I took that very seriously. I was like, when I first read Killing Joke, I read my brother's copy. Like it was one of those, like, almost like he had stolen porn from the store. Like he kept it under his bed. I was probably 11. He was like 15, you know, it was one of those. He's like, and he like, my brother and I hate each other to this day. We're not very close. I mean, we've always been, he's, you know, you can see he's like a Trumpy, he's like a religious Trumpy kind of person. If you're a religious Trumpy person, that's fine too, but just that's my brother is. But it was one of the few bonding moments we had in our childhood where he's like, Tom, come here. I got to show you something. You've been reading Batman comics, right? It's like, yeah, like, this is a real Batman comic. I remember him being like, you're reading the children's books. This is what the adults, this is what Joker's really like. Like, you're reading, because at that time, Joker was like, I mean, it was kind of scary because he was killing Robins, but he was head of the Iranians. It was a weird moment for Joker at that point. And I remember reading that book and being like, oh, wow. And I was way too young, 11. I was like, comics are scary. Like, Joker he's not just a bad guy. He's a force of nature. He's someone who Batman and him cannot live on the same planet together. One of them must go. And that's what I was trying to get with this Riddler. I want to make Riddler like that, where him and Batman cannot live on this planet together. There is something so evil. And the basic idea, it's not like a complicated thing, but the idea was that Riddler's been playing games with Batman because he enjoyed playing games this whole time. He likes giant typewriters. He likes putting out riddles and solving them. And one day, for reasons that are revealed in the books, he decided he's not playing games anymore, and he's going to be himself. And as himself, he's a little smarter than Batman. He goes up. He's like, I know who you are, Bruce. I know how your parents died. I know where Tim lives. I know where Jason lives. And I could kill them at any time. And I haven't, because it's always been fun to play with you, but riddles aren't fun anymore, and I don't want to play anymore. So we're going to have a different kind of relationship. And that's what it's about, that.
Exactly.
It's a very fucked up comic. And it's one of the most gorgeously drawn comics of all time. It's by Mitch Gerrard's My Brother in Arms. And if you just love beautiful art, that's a reason to get the book. If you like scary art, that's a reason to get the book. If you want the darkest of dark Batmans, this is the way to get the book. This is in the tradition of the cult and those books, sort of Killing Joke, and those books I sort of grew up with. So like, Batman is scary, and so are his villains. So yeah, that's one bad day. Absolutely. And it was hard to write. Oh my god, it was hard because I had to use every kind of comic book, anything. I know a lot about comics, and I had to use every trick I knew, from 9-panel grids to what to do with 3-panel grids and 4-panel grids and POVs and transitions. And it was just from a process level, it was hard.
How many pages was that?
64 pages. It's one complete story. It's really awesome what DC did. They released it as a 64 with no ads. So it's 64 pages. It's $8. You're like, oh, $8. But it's 3 issues, which usually would cost you $15. So you're actually getting almost half price.
Yeah.
And there's no ads at all. So you just read. It's almost like a mini trade.
You know, I look forward to seeing how that does, because again, as the price point, as you just pointed out, it gets as big as it does. And I know that's like, you know, I mean, again, sorry, everybody, here's the old man talking, but truly, I used to like being able to walk into a comic book store with $20 and come out with, 10 plus issues of stuff.
10 plus issues. When we were kids, it's 20 issues for $20. I remember.
Well, yeah. Well, dude, Christ, I go back to the 20-cent era. When I was a little kid.
You're an old
so
man.
I mean, I'd get my 50 cents a week from my father, and I'd buy 2 comic books and a pack of baseball cards with my 50 cents. That was amazing.
Whatever my allowance dollar amount was, that's how much I could buy comics at Comics Inc. in Culver City in LA. Yeah, you could walk in there $4 and walk out with 4 comics, unless you want to do back issues. Those were $1.25. So it was hard. The
guys at Comic Pop want to know, whose idea was it to kick off a new Perfect Bound done in one initiative? It's such a great return from DC. Agreed.
I mean, as far as I remember, that was Ben Abernathy, who I talked from before, who's the brilliant Batman editor and is now the executive editor of DC Comics. He called me. I was on vacation somewhere, and he's like, we wanted to. It was originally called The Killing Year, like a series of killing jokes for all of Batman's villains. And he asked Mitch and I to start. Mitch and I were sort of looking for our follow-on project to Strange Adventures, and he's like, would you and Mitch want this? And we had done, Mitch and I had sort of done 2 obscure, well, if you got Mr. Terrific, 3 obscure characters. And so it was like, do you guys want to jump onto some, go from the most obscure to the biggest? And Mitch was all on board. He loves drawing Batman. And so if I can make Mitch happy, then I'm happy. So it's good.
Mr. Monarch wants to know, if Superman got a one bad day treatment, which villain would you want to write?
Oh, wow, Superman has like 5. That's like set. Well, he has nothing. He got nothing villains, right? No offense to Superman, but once you get past Lex Luthor and Brainiac, you're already.
I think Mongul has proven to be formidable. Obviously, Darkseid. And I think
so you're going the cosmic ones. I think.
Well, and again, but you're right, because good Lord, and especially in that period from the 40s through the 70s, you had more goofy Toyman bullshit villains for Superman than real physical threats. So Parasite certainly has become a threat to Superman, I would say. Obviously,
like Metallo, and he's got a thing in his chest.
Metallo, Mxyzptlk.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to do Darkseid because there's nothing psychological about Darkseid. That's why Darkseid is. He's just evil. And I think reducing him to psychology sort of ruins the character. I'll randomly choose Metallo. I think doing an evil robot with a Kryptonian heart, I think that would be fun.
Okay.
I think that would be cool. Also, I like his toy that I have at home. So
what Philip Johnson's done with not only original Mongul, but having Mongul's son kill him, becoming even more threatening. Cool. Yeah, that action run. I'm so happy for Philip in the same way I was happy for Brad back in the day following Kevin Smith on Green Arrow, because sometimes it's a tall order. And when you're like, all right, who's this guy? Well, I guess good luck. And then they deliver. And I just think the story in particular that he's telling in action is really, it's an epic Superman story. Truly
and
is.
That's a story. I would have trouble writing Mongul. I like how Philip's doing it. Because to me, Mongul is Diet Thanos. So it would be hard not to just write Diet Thanos. It's like it's very. I think Mongul's a tough character in that way, and that like I feel like he's a semi copy of a character that's much better done in another company.
Monarch puts out Vartox. I loved Vartox.
I like Vartox. I've been into it.
I love what Jimmy Amanda.
Yeah, I was good. Jimmy Amanda in Power Girl did a great Vartox.
Very funny. Very funny.
Very.
And that's the thing, because I don't think of him as. I mean, even in the Bronze Age, he became a friend. And Christ, in whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow at the end, he's grieving over Lana, like hard, because Lana sacrifices herself and becomes an insect queen again, and tries to face the big bad in that story, and gets vaporized. And I mean, Vartox is beside himself dying because he loved Lana.
I'm telling you, we could do Metallo, dude, and we'll just make it so Metallo has the Krypton, and every day he decides not to kill Superman. Like every day he makes that decision, and we just explore. We can do that for 64 issues of, we'll divide this. Well, this is how we write a comic, guys. Divide into 8 pages, so we'll have 8 little stories, and we'll do 8 days. We'll do a full week, Monday through Monday, and every day he makes the decision not to kill Superman, and we have to come up with that. That's our comic right there.
Interesting. Well, I'd
read
that.
We can do that.
I'd absolutely read that.
8 page shorts.
Jace wants to know why Tales of Humor Target is so good. Talk about the choice to dial up guys' jerk level.
You've already read it? What? Oh my goodness!
Well,
it's 12:34.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
It's out like
I thought
30 minutes ago.
But I'm like, oh yeah, I figured I'm like, wait a minute, it's not out yet. Well, maybe Jace has a store.
I get that a lot. Am I remembering Guy wrong? Guy is a jerk, right? Isn't that who Guy is?
Sure he is. Well, yeah, but he's certainly, and I would say during the Winnick years of GL, and they'd have the Warriors bar and stuff. I think Guy softened up a bit.
It's the most famous punch in comic book history. Batman punches him in the face because he's a jerk. One punch. He did it in one punch.
Well, and then
he gets brain damage and turns into a nice guy for 12 issues.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's hilarious. I totally forgot about that. But no, I am with you. And also, I just love the way you took his love for ice and the way you use it in Human Target. And it is classic noir of this is the old boyfriend that hates the new guy and still loves the girl and everything. He's the who's the guy that plays the cop in Rear Window? Oh yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's who Guy is in this. James Mason. No, it's not James Mason. It's starts with a W. Wendell Corey. You have reduced Guy Gardner to Wendell Corey. Wendell Corey also in my favorite Christmas movie with Janet Leigh and Robert Mitchum. It's called Holiday Affair. And that's a good movie. I know that one. I love that movie. And truly, that was like in the 90s. I'm like, I've never seen this before. This is now my favorite Christmas movies, Supplanting Miracle on 34th Street and It's a Wonderful Life.
I saw it for the first time this year. That's a good one.
And Mitchum is so like, it's like he was doing Out of the Past, took a wrong turn, and wound up in a Christmas movie. And all right, I guess I'm here now. And there's this great subtext when he's confronting Wendell Corey, and he's just like, let me tell you something, Wendell. I think you're a good egg, but I think Janet ought to be with me. And it's like, that's pretty much the movie.
You don't know. Yeah, you honestly don't know who's just going to choose. Yeah, that's a good movie. But to get back to Guy Gardner, I always thought Guy Gardner is a very tragic story, right? I remember reading his origin story as a kid, where like the alien landed on Earth, and there were two people that were worthy, and either one of them could have embraced this great destiny, and Hal was just a little closer. It was like meters or something, and so Hal got taken away, and Guy Gardner got a little bit, and then he got in this bus accident that gave him brain damage, and so he could never be what Hal is, which is Hal is William Shatner, Hal is Captain Kirk, and his whole life he has to look at Captain Kirk and be like, I was gonna be that, except for that 1 inch, just for nothing to do with me and who I was, and I wouldn't have been in that bus accident, and I wouldn't be this way, and everyone wouldn't hate me, and I'd be the world's greatest hero, and that to me is an incredible character. And a little bit of a jerky character, a little bit of a resentful character, a character who finds reasons to hate other people because he hates himself.
Yes.
So that's why I sort of that's what I dug into. Yeah,
I'm with you, man. No. Mason wants to know what it's like, obviously, and we talked about it a little bit earlier. But feel free to wax poetic about Greg Smallwood, best looking.
Oh, I can wax poetic for hours. What is it like to work with Greg Smallwood? I do nothing. I do this. It's problematic in this way. This is an odd writer complaint. When you write a comic, then an artist draws it, and then you get what they call a lettering draft, or sometimes you'll say, I'm doing lettering. If you see I'm working on letters. And what that means is they've combined your writing with the artist's, and you have to look at it and see if it matches. And some people do no writing at that point. They're like, oh, great, it's fine, and they just pass it on. Some people, if you're Stan Lee, you do all of your writing at that point. You're like, oh, okay, I told Jack space, and he made this weird monster that's purple and in a dress. I'm going to make this. Like that. So I'm halfway in between. So when I get it back, I just want to check and make sure my writing still works. And if there's sort of any off, you read over and you're like, oh, man, that there's definitely like this note is not supposed to be. So when I read Greg and I say, oh, I wrote this badly, like this dialogue sucks. Like I wrote, it's cliche. I want to write something new. And again, I'm going to kind of change this a little bit. But the faces, the expressions are so exact that I can't normally, there's the famous, I don't know what director it was, but in the very beginning of film, they did this thing where they just, they filmed a guy and they just like looking out the window, he had a blank expression. And then they filmed stuff around him. Oh, his wife just died in front of him. Oh my God, he looks, and the audience is like, he looks sad. Or, oh, he just got a birthday present. He looks happy. Like you could just add to it. But his expressions are so distinct, I can't change the dialogue. It has to be what my dialogue originally intended, or else the emotion doesn't make sense for that panel. That's how good Greg is. I can't pay a high compliment to that. Just in a facial expression. I mean, it's utterly amazing.
He's with Kevin McGuire in terms of, and Kurt Swan back in the day, and the capability of conveying emotion just with a facial expression and everything. No, I'm with you, man.
He does if you look, there's in each issue, there's a new kind of title sequence, which he does in a different style for every issue. It's all him. Obviously, it's none of that's in the script. He just pulls that out of his ass. So yeah, it's been, and he's an utter. He's a friendly guy. He's a cool guy. He's super nice. A family guy. Yeah, he's awesome.
No, when he had his Dream Weaver, I believe, series at Dark Horse, that's the first I was aware of him. And no, it's always been a pleasure reading Greg's stuff. And eventually, he said he would come on when Human Target wraps up. So I'm holding it to you, Greg, if you're watching. God of the Monotone. When are we getting that Kite Man 12-issue maxi series? I've been waiting patiently, Tom. Please.
Never. When I left Batman, my editor, Jamie Rich, same guy we talked about before, said to me, he's go, Tom, I want to give you some advice. I'm your editor. I love you. Kite Man is gone for you. Let him rest. And when Jamie Rich tells me things, I listen. So he's resting. Kite Man's resting. I love him. I love using the little gif of him, the hell yeah gif. I love every time I see him. But no, I don't think any 12. I wrote a 12-issue maxi series with Kite Man. It's in Batman. I can give you the actual issues, but yeah, he has his sad story told. Although who knows, someone throws some money at you, you might well do it. But who would throw money at me for a Kite Man series? That is not a thing that's happening. I don't think DC is going to call me and be like, Tom, I know you wanted to work on Superman. I know you're like Snape, but this is what we want to give you money for.
That's interesting. Phoenix says, because of your art choices, I get introduced to the most amazing and diverse sets of artists spanning all different styles of art. 100%, man.
I work with the best artists in comics. It's mostly luck. I mean, some of these people are my best friends. Working with Doc Clay and Mitch, those are my best friends in the world, who I'm going to see in Toronto very soon. And some of it is just utter chance, where Greg and I, that was an editor, just throwing us together. I can take credit for Jorge Fornes. I found him. I found him through Twitter. He tweeted splashes at me and ended up, and we worked on it. So that's the one I can take credit for. But all the rest of the guys was just me getting lucky.
And I'm glad because they're a great cadre of men and women. Absolutely.
God, the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
all right, and more BS, or are you tired? Because I know it's it's almost 1 year time.
No, we haven't talked about Strange Worlds. We got to talk a little Star Trek.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the season on balance. I gave it, and this sounds like a backhanded compliment, but I truly mean it, and especially compared to other new Trek that I hate. I gave it a B-. I still have my problems with canon that they seem to think we don't care. And there were, to me, the storybook episode was ridiculous and not enough story book. And also the whole thing of M'Benga having his kid in the transporter. I know that's supposed to tug at my heartstrings, and maybe if I were a father, I'd feel differently. But I'm like, this is bullshit. And also, by the way,
you can't store people in the transporter. That's a ridiculous concept.
Well,
how many times would they have done that? Every single ship that crashed should have put their crew in the transporter.
That's why it was so special on Next Gen when that's how Scotty survived. And it's like, yeah, that's Scotty, the miracle worker. He's doing something that nobody ever thought of before. And now at Discovery, we're going through some rough meteor weather. Let's put everybody in the buffer. And then, of course, M'Benga, my daughter is sick. Put her in the buffer. And I'm like, fuck you. I really was, and still am. I love M'Benga. I think he's a great character. I'm so thrilled that they brought him back. I'll go on my laundry list later of characters and character choices. But you feel free to jump in on your thoughts on Strange New Worlds.
I want to say up front, I'm not a Voyager guy. That show did not do it for me. I kind of felt slipped on the banana right from when they decided to merge the crews and not have them fight with each other. Like right from the beginning. I know you love Enterprise. That show did not do it for me. Discovery is not, and Picard. So to me, I'm going to complain about this show all day. I have so many problems with it. To me, it's the best Trek since DS9, which is crazy because I'm about to tell you all the things I hate about it. So, and that's 30 years. So if you're the best thing in 30 years, then you deserve an award. Like I watched every episode. I was excited about every episode. I was happy when it came on. I thought the crew was charismatic. I thought Star Trek needs to be a one and done, and with a build, that's the proper way to do that. Always to have a new crew and one and done episodes. So I'm gonna spend 20 minutes complaining about it. But up front, I got I couldn't really get through Discovery. I couldn't really get through Picard. I watched the whole thing. I will watch the next season. I'm excited about the show. I'm excited to have good Trek in my life again. And so I want to lead with all the goodness I have for this show. I just think I think on that level, it's fantastic. And also you and I know this, the first season of Trek is always crappy. For even DS9's first season is not that great. Star Trek, the original series, the first season is not as good as the second one. And Lord knows Generation, the first season is really rough. So I give a lot of credit for all that stuff. But now I can start complaining.
Here we go.
First of all, I think this is I understand their reasoning that we want to join, we want to bring fans in, but the idea that why they can't just assemble a new team and go into the future, why it has to be in the past, I still don't understand it. It's tough with Spock because nobody's letting Nimoy. He's a unique individual. You watch him on any role, he was always Spock. That's just who he was. He wasn't acting as Spock. That's just
that Columbo. Yeah, Columbo is essentially Columbo versus Mr.
Columbo
Spock.
versus Mr. Spock. He's just, his emotions were bottled up, and it had a lot to do with who he was as a person, and also his Judaism and a lot of things.
Yes.
And nobody can play that role quite right, even though this guy's given a good attempt. And also,
he leapt ahead of Quinto in my opinion.
Yeah, me too. I don't mind it, but the choice.
But nobody can do it. You're right. Nimoy is Spock. It's more so than any other character.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like in the new movies, the Christopher, whichever Christopher.
Chris Pine.
Chris Pine does a great job as Shatner. I think he's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, no. I think he does a great job as Kirk. He doesn't do a Kirk. Shatner imitation.
That's right. Yeah, he does. That's a much better way to put it. But the problem I have as a writer is I spent 30 years watching Spock grow as a character. I know when he grows. He's not going to grow on this show because he's going to grow on the shows I already watched. So you're going to show me episodes because you can't resist it as a writer to have this character have a love interest and grow as and realize his humanness and have epiphanies. But I was like, none of these epiphanies take because he's got to have all the same epiphanies with Shatner.
On the original series.
On the original, like that. I think that's just a mistake.
I completely agree with that. Well, too, prior to that on Discovery, their version of Sarek is ridiculous because, again, and I'm sorry, I know I'm repeating myself, that moment in Star Trek 6 or 4, at the end, after they've, whatever, Sarek comes back and he's like, Father, it's good to see you. And he goes, of course, you're my son. He's like, these people, your associates, they're of good character. Maybe I was wrong about you, not, my decision or my feelings that you shouldn't join Starfleet. And Spock goes, they're my friends. And Sarek bristles and becomes Country Club Vulcan and like, oh, yeah, yes, of course, friends. And it's like, yeah, that human bullshit. And on Discovery, Sarek is smiling, is beaming at Michael Burnham. And it's like, just like you said about Spock, it's like, fuck you. You are screwing with character that we have watched for 50 years, if we're old enough, and I am. And it's like, no, that's the progression of these characters. When you go back, just like you said, and now we've already said as far as Pine and Kirk, I like Paul Wesley. I hold no ill will to him. The most miscast James Kirk to date until
I don't understand what they were doing with that.
I'll tell you what. Here's my tin hat conspiracy theory. They only have room for one alpha male in New Star Trek, and that's Anson Mount. And whereas it would be interesting, much in the same way that in the original Galactica, you got Lorne Greene and Lloyd Bridges as two different commanders with very different philosophies, and not afraid to make Lloyd Bridges this charismatic, fly by the seat of your pants, bombastic guy. Now, Kane is different than Kirk, but right away, and you can see the anger in my face, the articles started coming out. Well, we don't want a William Shatner imitation with Paul Wesley. That's what the producers said. Fuck you. He doesn't need to do that. You know what he needs to do? Charisma and command. That's James Kirk. That is Kirk from the day he was an ensign and said the right thing, that all the other senior officers are like, who's that guy? And while they had Paul Wesley say and do all the right stuff, it didn't come sincerely out of his mouth. I didn't believe that actor saying those lines. Your thoughts?
No, Kirk is the greatest captain in the history of Star Trek. I mean, I know Picard's wonderful, but just in terms of continuity, he is Michael Jordan. Like, there's going to be some LeBrons. There's going to be Russells. There's going to be guys who won more before.
Absolutely. Yeah,
there's going to be, but there's only one Michael Jordan. There's only one who is the center of the universe that everything goes around. And you have to acknowledge that. You have to be, why bring him in and be like, oh, he is,
he did all the right things, but you know what he didn't do? He didn't have swagger. And you know who has swagger, whether he's taking a shit or acting, it's William Shatner. And they hate him for that. Yeah. And I understand that he's difficult and asks for, oh, you're going to pay me $1 million? Well, I want $10 million. Well, we don't
Shatner, not a wonderful human being, but a perfect Captain Kirk.
Well, and again, I mean, every article about Star Trek that's on StarTrek.com, it's like either it's pointing out all the 1960s flaws of Captain Kirk, or, well, really, it's easy to dismiss Kirk as a misogynist, but here's why he's good. It's like, Fuck you. We've always known he was good. There's such a thing as context. And if you don't understand when this character was created, for its absolutely 1960s flaws, I mean, I know Charlie was the one on the original series that SWAT Yeoman ran down the ass. I'm sure Jim Kirk would have done it in his younger years as well. But that said, it's like, look, there are plenty of great redeeming qualities of Jim Kirk, and you can abandon all the misogyny and whatever else you perceive. But that character, just like you said, he is the best of the best. He is the template. He is the one that Stuart Picard and Riker studied when they were kids. He is the man. And it's like they don't want Paul Wesley to be the man. And they're like, well, this is younger. Again, bullshit. Ensign Jim Kirk, Cadet Jim Kirk had all those qualities.
Jordan was winning championships at North Carolina, my friend. He was. People knew.
My old movie example is Henry Fonda in Young Mr. Lincoln. When it's years before he's president, he's still goddamn Abe Lincoln.
John Ford, wonderful movie.
Yes, amazing movie, and that's the kind of attitude you need to take with Kirk. Of like, who's that guy that just walked in the room? And they don't care. They don't care. Adam Anthony goes, "What's this about William Shatner taking a shit?" Thank you, Adam.
To get to my other complaints about the series. I love whining about Star Trek with you. It's the most
I know you
fun.
do, and that's why I'm glad we're doing it, man.
I'm glad we're doing. I like the cast. I think it's awesome. I think they cast it well. Like, how many of those? 8 of them. 6 of them chose the same personality. They should have walked into a room and had a draft of personalities. 6 of them chose I'm hard on the outside but soft on the inside. And that was difficult for me, being like, okay, you have to. The number 2, she's hard on it, but she has a secret that makes her soft on the inside. Oh, that's also that's number 1. Sorry,
number 1. Okay, yeah,
number 1. That's like everyone is that. That's the engineer is that way, and that's the.
Lon is like that,
and Lon is like that, and it's like, they were all Worf. It was like 6 Worfs.
And also
Odos. You get 1 Worf and 1 Odo. You get one of those.
I would say that Hemmer was the Odo of the show. He was only in 4 of the 10 episodes, and they killed him.
Yeah, and for no reason. He died very bizarrely.
Well, and also it's like, oh, Hemmer. Oh, Uhura. Oh, he was such an inspiration. I'll never forget him. Well, we will, because he was only on 4 goddamn episodes. Yeah. And also, my theory about that is, much like Robot Girl from Discovery, I suspect that Bruce Horrick might have been uncomfortable in the makeup because it sounds like he's coming back. And my suspicion is, despite the 10th episode, we're not going to get Scotty, and hopefully not for seasons, if at all, on this show. But we will get a new engineer, and I'm betting it's Bruce Horrick without all the makeup. That's my suspicion. And also, again, we've had 10 episodes. Why does La'an need to be a Khan descendant? Couldn't she have been descended from other augments? The augment debate, and especially if you haven't seen the full season, everybody, I'll leave it at that. They're going to address the augment debate clearly in the 2nd season. And I look forward.
But didn't they do that in DS9? Didn't we have that with?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. But my fear is, in this era of virtue politics, new Trek first and foremost, and then maybe some story, maybe, they're going to be Federation, you're wrong, and this is why. And we better have a counterweight argument, because it is a valid argument, especially given when the idea of Khan was created in the 60s. Genetic manipulation, that could lead to superior people who believe they're superior, and let's get rid of the inferior people. And that was the fear, because, again, coming from the World War II generation who saw it up close with the Nazis, but even here in America, where they were talking about eugenics and we need master races and stuff like that. That's the point of being against eugenics. I appreciate young people, and especially young LSGBTQ. I'm sorry, I'm not hitting all the letters, and I don't mean that in a pejorative way.
What are you
but
doing here?
They relate to the augment situation and say, augments are others, we are others, we're not respected, they're not respected. That is a valid point of view, but you cannot forget why the augments were created as we can't let this happen. Genetic manipulation. And even though we as you know, our society is heading towards that, and I'm all for stem cell research and all the rest and getting rid of the diseases, but genetic manipulation is a slippery slope, and it better be addressed as such in the debate that's coming. If it isn't, again, I say, fuck you. You took the short route, and that's shitty writing.
There will be good episodes, and there will be bad episodes.
We'll see. We'll see.
I also feel like of the 10 episodes, 6 of them involved the same joke, which was a person who is suddenly thrust into a situation where they're pretending to be another person and don't know all the information. Like this idea of like, oh, you think I'm this person, but I'm not that person, but I have to pretend to be them. Like that was in so many of the episodes. I was like, stop doing this. Just that's. But these are all complaints. Again, I loved the season. I thought it was one of the best. I think there's so much potential here. They'll find their personalities. They'll find their plots.
Absolutely.
And they've nowhere. They have a ton of running room ahead of them. The captain's awesome. The navigator is awesome.
Well, my only complaint about the bridge crew is they all, including La'an and Erica, is they all are happy to speak their mind. And finally, in the 10th episode, Erica's like, oh, well, I guess we're going to do it. Erica, stand down. In other words, shut the fuck up. I'm the captain. I made a command. I don't need your snark. Follow my fucking order. And that's been the case of Discovery. Oh, well, it does. It angers me because it's like they treat Starfleet like you're working at Denny's or McDonald's. And it's like, oh, you're kind of busting our asses here, manager. This is still the military. This is even in a regular business. You don't mouth off to the boss. And all these people feel very comfortable mouthing off to the boss. And it's like, and La'an too. No, Captain, we can't. Michael Burnham, right from the Michael Burnham playbook. Fuck you. You're a junior officer. I'm the goddamn captain. Sit the fuck down.
I feel like that's what Pike wants. Pike is that kind of manager. He wants everybody to have a voice.
Oh, and I like that.
Got a smile on his face. He's cooking in the kitchen.
No, and I love him cooking in the quarters. I like that he's an easygoing guy, especially after learning his fate and kind of sitting with that. And he seems to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna take the time I have and make the best of it. That's I mean, Anson Mount, butter can't melt in his mouth. He's too perfect. And I love him for it. And thank God, because that was another tin hat suspicion of mine. Maybe you heard the same rumors. When Mount auditioned, they just told him, oh, you're a Starfleet captain. After he got the part, they're like, okay, you're Christopher Pike. And he's enough of a Star Trek fan to go, well, that's a significant role, and I'm going to play it different than I did on the audition. And I had heard rumors during that second season that they weren't happy with him being as demonstrative and commanding as he was. They wanted him to pull back a little bit until the tidal wave of even us new Trek haters are like, we like that guy. We want a shit ton more of that guy. That's Star Trek.
I wish they'd make fun of his hair more, though. Man, that hair is out of control.
Beautiful hair. Beautiful hair. God bless.
Out of control.
Nice to see hair products made it to the 24th century or 23rd century.
I would, if someone was like that, I would, even if they were my captain, I would mock them for wearing their hair like that.
That's a good hair. No, that's good hair, man. I love them. Usab, hey, all right, and that's funny because you did mention.
I like the cast. It's a good cast. It was a good. That's what Star Trek did. That was Gene Roddenberry. He had so many flaws as a storyteller, but boy, he could cast.
Yeah. And again, I worry about.
I think they cast it well.
Yeah, I'm glad they got Anson, and I'm glad Anson gets it. And I have more confidence in Henry Alonso Myers for Strange New Worlds as he, if not retains more control, seems to be more the direct showrunner than Akiva Goldsman. And I think the same can be said about Picard season 3, because Akiva really was, even though it was Metalis and Goldsman as co-showrunners, Goldsman really ran season 2 of Picard. And I don't know if you follow my buddy Rob Burnett. Okay, well, Rob is even more of a harsher critic of New Trek than we are. And he got to see season 3 of Picard. And he's like, everybody, I'm telling you, you know how hard I've been on new Star Trek. This is the show we've been waiting for. It's going to be fantastic. The entire Next Gen cast is great. It's a great story. And he's like, this is what they should have been doing. And also, you might have seen my photos that I put up on Twitter and Facebook. I got to see Frakes and Gates McFadden and John Delancey.
Yeah.
And Gates was, and she's been doing it. She was saying the same stuff in San Diego. she's been gushing about this season, and just like, I promise you will not be disappointed by season 3. She's like, Terry Matalas gets it. And Terry Matalas back in 2013 wrote an IDW Next Gen miniseries called Hive, Borg Story. It's great. And that, and also I heard him on Inglorious Trexperts, the podcast, and he said all the right things there. And people were worried about, what's Worf going to look like based on the shitty Klingon design we got on New Trek. And he's like, he's going to look like Worf, don't worry. And sure enough, and I like his silver hair. I love the uber Trek nerds that are like, well, Klingons age slower, so really.
Why can't? I mean, everyone says this. Why can't they just give Worf a ship and have old Worf with a new crew, first Klingon captain?
He tried.
That would be such an easy show to write.
He pitched it to Paramount. They turned him down.
I
mean, I'm so
get a new crew and
truly, you can do that with a good dozen former Star Trek cast members from Next Gen all the way through Enterprise, for that matter.
But Worf is perfect because he's the DS9 guy. He's this, and he's a Klingon. It immediately presents you with 3,000 problems.
Yes, and a different point of view. No, and that's one of the reasons why I like Prodigy.
If only we were writers, John, we could figure this thing out.
I got to tell you my movie idea that I'd like to pitch. All right, real fast. Psycho Cleveland.
Oh, you got a movie idea? I'm pitching a movie next month or next week.
Psycho wants to know if I'm going to take over for Gilbert. Can we hear his Georgie Jessel imitation? One bright and shining light. Yeah.
Gilbert's singing. I'm going back to this podcast, but he has on these old, these
Jimmy Webb.
Jimmy Webb. Yeah, Jimmy Webb's this week. And he sings along, to what's it called? The park.
MacArthur Park.
And there's so much joy and you feel bad because he's passed, but you're like, at least he did that. When he had Dick Van Dyke on and they sung all
Supercalifragilistic,
not just one, they'd sing the whole thing. I was like, that's what embrace joy in life. Sorry, we're going back to Gilbert Gottfried.
No, and I'm with you, man. No, Gilbert's the man, and again, it breaks my heart that he's not with us anymore. And I had no idea he was sick.
I'm tired of people dying. I'm tired of it. We've had a horrible year for deaths in comics.
I saw Svengoolie. I saw Svengoolie at C2E2, and he's like, oh yeah, he goes, and it's true. It's been 8 months. He's like, I still haven't gotten over it. I'm like, I'm with you, man. So no, it's a great loss. It truly is a great loss. Dylan Barris says, do you think he'll ever return to Marvel?
Marvel's where my heart is. It always will be.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I grew up a Marvel zombie. Those are my character. When I was a kid, first 5 years or 3 years of Magic collecting comics, I wouldn't touch DC. God, DC was for boring people. I was Marvel.
Dad's comics.
Yeah, those are Dad's comics. Yeah. I heard. When you go back to you, the description Shooter had, where like DC Comics move in a circle, right? Like they tell the story, and then at the very end, you're exactly where you started.
Restart.
And Marvel's they work in a line. They go forward. And I as a child, I totally bought that. Not to say I didn't get into DC. Eventually, I was like, yeah, I love Flash. I love Batman, and we were just talking about Killing Joke getting me into it. So I made my way in, but I was always in my heart. My first comic was a Tom Palmer comic. He passed away just this week, so just to pay a little tribute to him, was Avengers 300. And that's sort of, I don't know, there's a part, like I still have that comic. I can almost touch it from here, 5 feet from me. That my mother bought off, got this bag of cigarettes and bought me Avengers 300 and started my whole life. And I would love to go to Marvel. I adore those characters. I don't know. It would be a challenge. It would definitely be a challenge. I'm not sure, having been at DC so long, if anyone wants to read a 12-issue series about how Captain America is sad, I'd have to find a different way to write. I'd have to find a different way to do it.
That's
awesome. a new gear to put into battle to make it cooler than just making superheroes sad. I don't think that would work.
Useb wants to know about the Tommy Lee Jones show.
Yes, I haven't talked about this at all publicly because it was so secret for so long. But now it's been 2 years and the show is quite dead. Tommy Lee Jones, it was a ball to work on, and Tommy Lee Jones was wonderful. But I spent 2 years of my life. I won't say what the show's about because the show is still in play. But what happened was I was working with a producer who wanted to make Sheriff into something, my old Sheriff of Babylon, and I didn't have the rights. I still don't have the rights. DC has those. And I said, he's like, "Do you have anything else?" And I was like, I had written a chapter of a novel that I never published. And I was like, I don't really, this producer, I didn't know him very well. I was like, here's a chat. I was like on my computer, who cares? And I sent it to him. And he called me back and he's like, "Oh, we really like that chapter of your novel. We sent it over to Tommy Lee Jones and he wants to turn it into a TV series." And he's like, "Can you come to New York next week to meet with Tommy Lee?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What?" Like it was a book I did not write. It was a book that I had written and it was like, it failed. So I just left it on. It was nothing. And I went into meeting there and and I sit down, there's me and this like producer and we're in New York. And then Tommy Lee, he's not an entourage kind of guy. He just walks in by himself and he sits down, he takes out my chapter and starts reading it out loud. Now I had sent it raw. So Tommy Lee once went to Harvard and he's like a super genius, right? He's from West Texas and he very much embraces that part of himself, but he's also he's Al Gore's roommate.
Yep.
And so he starts reading my chapter out loud, and I had not even spell checked it. So there's spelling mistakes, and he's stopping in his Tommy Lee Jones voice to be like, "Occasionally, with 2 C's," like to like comment on my spelling mistakes. And I was like, "What is going on with my life?" The Tommy Lee Jones, and
that's
anyways,
awesome.
The long-term story, he's like, "I want to turn this into a TV show. I'm going to co-write it with you. I'm going to star in it, and we're going to co-create it together." And so Tommy Lee and I, for 2 years, every month or two, we would go to a different location, sit down for a week or two, and write together. Me and this Oscar-winning movie star, and it was like something out of a Bendis graphic novel. Is the best way I can describe it. It was like at one point we were in the bungalows in the. If anyone knows anything about Hollywood history, in the Beverly Hills Hotel, which is like that's where Raymond Chandler wrote The Big Sleep. Like, you're in those bungalows, like this is where Howard Hughes in Number 7, that's where Howard Hughes lived for 20 years, like in the bungalows of the Beverly Hills Hotel. And me and Tom Lee are in a bungalow trying to type out this pilot.
Did he call you Slick?
Oh,
sounds pretty good, Slick.
Called me Slick, called me Kid.
I'll tell you what, Slick.
He was like a strange combination of co-writer and like father figure, and he just had lots of advice on. And he would tell, obviously I'm an old Hollywood guy, and he would, constantly drop. And I would try to get him. My favorites. There's lots of stories about him, but we're sitting in a bar or hotel, and literally Benedict Cumberbatch was sitting next to us. So it was between Tommy Lee Jones and Benedict Cumberbatch. And we're going over this script, and I'm an asshole, and Tommy Lee was turning in pages, and I was trying to say in the nicest way, but I was like, "Tommy Lee, I don't think this works as dialogue. That's what I do all of that." And he's like, and he starts reading it like out loud. And Tommy's an incredible actor, and then suddenly he wasn't Tommy Lee Jones anymore. He was the actor, and suddenly the dialogue that I just thought was flat on the page was fucking the most brilliant thing ever. I saw a guy transform something before my eyes in the middle of a stupid bar while we're sitting there. It was a transcendent and very bizarre experience to go around the world with Tommy. I have many stories about. We would drive around New York City, and we were in obviously some black limo, and we'd stop at a stoplight. He would just roll down his window and stick his face out at somebody until they noticed it was him, and be like, "Is that Tommy Lee Jones?" And he'd roll up his window again, and we'd keep driving.
That's fantastic.
He was a kick.
Man.
That was 2 years of my secret life working on this secret TV thing, and then COVID hit, and it was a show that involved. Obviously, Tommy Lee himself, who's not the youngest man, and other actors of his age, and they just got killed because of that. They got killed because of COVID.
And sadly, COVID protocols are still in place.
COVID protocols are still in place, and it's hard to start something once it's off.
Well, it's amazing. Again, I don't get me wrong; they were still 2 shitty seasons, but it's amazing they were able to make that second season of Picard, given Patrick Stewart's age and the COVID restrictions.
Oh yeah, all that stuff is
so. Well, that's really cool, man. That's amazing. We can wrap, buddy. It's after 1 year time, and I know you got a busy week coming up. But if you're happy to talk, I'm happy to talk with you. Whatever you want.
I think we covered. Have we covered everything?
I think so.
We're good. Are we okay?
Yeah, I think so.
One time he was talking. I was asking about acting. He's like, "Well, Larry always said to do this, and I've taken that seriously." I was like, "Why do you take Larry so seriously?" He's like, "You don't take Laurence Olivier seriously."
Oh, fantastic! That I was like Lawrence Fishburne.
I was like,
who the hell knows? Olivier, Larry.
I was like, oh, Larry, of course, yeah. No, if Larry told me about acting, I guess I would take it serious.
That's so funny.
That's what it was like hanging out with Tommy Jones. It was the best.
Dylan wants to know: will you be at the Calgary Fan Expo next year?
I don't know. I don't know where I'll be next year. Maybe, who knows? I'll be at Fan Expo this week. I want everyone.
Oh, very good.
If
Toronto.
If you're listening to this when it comes out, I'll be in Toronto. Mitch will be there. Doc will be there. I did a 5-hour signing at Dallas. I want to break my record and do a 6-hour signing. So if that line is that long, I'm going to break this record. We're going to go for a new record. We're going to do a 6-hour signing, and I'm going to sign every goddamn comic I can. Please come out to Toronto so I can break the record.
Stepan Sejic has been watching, and it's great to see you, Stefan. Would you ever work with Stefan?
Oh yeah, in a second. Yeah, no,
I would love to see you guys do a Noir.
Oh no, I mean, I don't think it's a secret that we're trying to get him to do covers for Love Everlasting. He would do a beautiful cover for Love Everlasting.
Oh wow.
He knows that.
You're watching Stefan as always. Again, much like Gail and
Lord knows I love a sexy comic, and he.
Hell yeah, man, 100%.
So come to Toronto. Come see me, Mitch, and Doc. Get a hardcover of Strange Adventures signed by the three of us. Indeed. Or get Doc's new book. Mary Marvel is brilliant, and you should all be picking up that.
I think it's called
The Magic of Shazam or something.
Let Doc know that I'll be bugging him, and I want a new talk with him. Absolutely.
I mean, Doc is the best. He's a very wonderful, nice guy, and he's like driving there. It's like across the border for him. He's a Michigan guy. So yes, please come to Toronto and let me sign all your books, and let's have a little fun, because I'll be out there I'm going on vacation the week after, and I want to get as tired as I can. I want to work while I'm there. This is not I want to be doing it.
Well, Phoenix, I agree with you. Another excellent podcast with Tom, just amazing. I'll confess to everybody, and maybe you saw me coughing and sneezing and blowing my nose during this 2 hours. I'm still getting over this weird bronchitis. It's not COVID, thank God.
I had the COVID. It was awful. Don't get it.
Well, there you go. And yes, you did, coming back from San Diego and stuff. And at first I'm like, Tom, I don't know if I can do it tonight. And he's like, well, I'm going to Fan Expo. And I'm like, oh, all right. And I'm like, thank God I took a late afternoon, early evening nap, and it really made me feel better. And I'm like, all right, no, I'm okay. I'm like, please, let's do it. Because I do. You know this. I love having you on. You are incredibly kind with your praise. I feel the same way about your writing, and I'm glad we're friends, and I'm glad that thank God for this kind of technology, because truly Tom is one of those guys that I immediately say about a lot of my good friends that live so far away. Can't we all live on the same street? And we can just hang out like the drop of a hat. Hey, let's just meet for a beer for a second, or a coffee or whatever. And that's why I love conventions. And I was happy, even though it was one after another, doing Connecticut and then C2E2. If I had included San Diego with that, I'm sure I'd be dead by now. I don't think I can do 3 in a row anymore. I'm too fucking old. I got to be honest.
San Diego almost killed me, man. Almost killed me.
I understand. Jesus, you and Lehman. I told you, don't tongue kiss John Lehman. When are you going to listen to me?
He's a very handsome man.
He is a good looking man. Someone, it was Tom Pyre from Ahoy, and of course the Great Hour Man.
Of course, they have a feud. They have a feud going on.
Have a feud going on, and someone cast these guys in a movie. And I had Larry Fine as Tom Pyre, and I know because it was too easy with the hair. And remember Charles Martin Smith? He's the accountant in The Untouchables.
Oh my God! You got to be the new. You got to go on Gottfried.
That's Lehman.
Only you would
Charles Martin Smith and Larry Fine. That's your Lehman Pyre feud on film.
I saw Lehman at Comic-Con. Now I know. I saw him. We had lunch.
He's patient zero, man. He's the carrier. He got everybody sick that he was in contact with. I'm telling you, Johnny, I love you. If you're watching or listening, you know that. So there you go. Stefan says I can't handle San Diego anymore. These cons have gotten a bit ridiculously long, dude. I am. And I'll say for New York and San Diego, I understand why they're 4 days. But some of the other cities, when it's 4 days, I'm like, why? Come on.
Toronto's 4 days. I'm about to do another 4 days.
Well, Toronto's another big show like that, honestly, in fairness. So I'm sure you'll see Constance up there. Give my best to my favorite Dr. Greek.
I will. She runs Fan Expo brilliantly.
Indeed. So hang out for a second because I don't want to keep you up, but I did want to tell you some stuff off the air.
Ooh.
But
now we get
thanks everybody for watching and listening.
Thank you so much. Wait, John, let me just say thank you so much for doing this and for all you do and for all the entertainment. And I know I say this every time, but you provide. You do the best comic book interviews. When Neil Adams passed and they asked me to sort of write his tribute, the first thing I did was I went and listened to your interview with Neil Adams from 2005. And I think it's one of the best comic book interviews in the history of the medium. I just thought it was so brilliant. And I was like, this is, you get to know the man Neil Adams in 2 hours. And that's really hard to do because he's a complicated person. And I just have the highest compliments for what you do, John. And I really appreciate just knowing you. And I'm glad we get to become old men together.
Indeed.
It does. It feels comforting that we're on this journey together.
Absolutely, man. No, and you're 100% right. And we're gonna have many conversations well into our dotage.
We will remember those days. Remember that show?
Tommy Lee Jones.
Remember when we all watched Bewitched for some reason? We all knew every single episode. What was that about?
Did we ever talk about there was somebody on Bleeding Cool who totally tore Bewitched a new asshole because their prejudice, Darren is prejudiced against witches and all this bullshit about how
that's
Darren
absolutely
was
true. Why is that bullshit? That show
no, I would say no. Darren was the victim of witchcraft the entire goddamn show.
You have a whole different
and it's like, listen, and also no, they were a partnership. He was not, and they gaslit Mrs. Kravitz because every time she'd see something, Abner.
Yeah, poor Mrs. Kravitz. Yeah, she did not live a happy life.
It went so bad they had to go through 2 actresses to play Mrs. Kravitz.
That's
so anyway. But that's a conversation for another day. We'll talk about the sexual harassment.
That's going to be my Marvel series. So bring me to Marvel, and they're like, I'm doing 12 issues of brain damage Kravitz from all the witch.
Brain damage Kravitz. That's a great title.
Huge.
I love it. Everybody,
guys,
thanks for watching.